Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, come in and join us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And join us here right now, thrashed voice and all is one, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, it's an exciting day today because I'm getting something on physical media that I never thought I would see. That is the 5-hour version of Wim Wenders' film Until the End of the World. Thank you, Criterion.
And you know what? I already know we're going to get more people asking you about physical media stuff. But listen, guys, we have a whole lot of stuff that we need to talk about today. We've got Frozen setting some new marks at the box office. We're going to talk about that. Playmobil setting other types of marks. On the opposite side of things, we're going to talk about that. Of course, there was the big Brazilian Comic-Con that just went on. Marvel did a big presentation, but still no word, not a thing being said about Deadpool. What does that tell us at this point? Also, huge trailer stuff coming out, including a new Wonder Woman trailer. The first Wonder Woman trailer dropped. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Of course, Crisis on Infinite Earths has started. Wah, wah. We'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. And we got a few other things too. But before we do anything else, we're going to go right off the top with this. Speaking of trailers, pardon me, there have been a lot of trailers that came out. I feel like in the last 48, 72 hours. Yeah. It's crazy the number of trailers have been dropping this week. But a couple of significant ones have dropped as well. And we're going to start off talking about the Ghostbusters trailer. Now, everybody started buzzing when they said they were doing a new Ghostbusters that's in continuity with the original Ghostbusters movies. So we've got that coming. Then Paul Rudd got attached. We heard one of the most exciting things, if not the most exciting piece of information to me, about the new Ghostbusters is who's directing it. Jason Reitman, who is a phenomenal director. Phenomenal director. Good Canadian kid too, by the way. And also the son of Ivan Reitman, the director of the original films. It's perfection. Anyway, first trailer for Ghostbusters came out today. Here's my first impression. This don't feel like Ghostbusters at all. I mean, I'm watching this trailer and I'm hearing the dialogue, and even there's something about the lenses they use. I mean, everything from the feel of it, the look of it, the aesthetic, the dialogue, all that kind of stuff does not feel like a Ghostbusters movie in the least. But that is not necessarily a bad thing. Because we are talking about now a movie that's trying to take place in a little bit more grounded of a world. That's now, 30 years later? 30 years later, when there have been no ghosts in the world, all of a sudden you're talking about these legends of Ghostbusters again pops up. What would that look like? What would that feel like? And remember, this is just a first trailer. This is just a first trailer. And while I am not going to jump up and down about it, nor am I going to say this is the greatest trailer I've seen all year, I thought this trailer was a win. I really do. I thought it felt nothing like the original Ghostbusters, which shocked me a little bit and surprised me. Because I thought, well, that's what Reitman will do. He'll try to make it feel just like the other Ghostbusters. But as I'm watching and realizing it doesn't feel like that, I'm thinking, this is actually the right approach. I didn't realize this would be the right approach, but now that I'm seeing it, this is the right approach. The whole thing about the gunner chair and all that kind of stuff, seeing Paul Rudd in there was cool. So listen, all it was, I count something like this as an announcement trailer. There's really no substance to it. It really is just hey, everybody, just so you know, we've got this Ghostbusters movie coming out and we wanted to put it on your radar. That's what this trailer was. I thought it was effective. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to this movie. So that's what I thought about it. At anyway, Rob, you had a chance to watch the new Ghostbusters trailer. Pro, con, are you good for it? Are you not so good for it? How did you feel about it?
I loved it. There was one point where I started feeling an emotional reaction to the trailer. I thought, what a brilliant, for me, it's always about the intellectual idea. Is this idea compelling to me? And I thought they went in a direction that I didn't expect at all. But I'm completely fascinated. I'm totally in. I hope Finn Wolfhard is playing Egon's grandson.
I think that's what they're setting up. It seems like it, yeah.
You saw the spores and the molds and the fungus,
yeah.
And hearing Bill Murray's voiceover. I love this trailer, and while you pointed out it looks very different, but they maybe it looked like they shot it in Alberta where they shot the Smallville stuff from Superman the movie. I mean, I'm like, what a great way to get back into this, and I was fascinated. I'm totally in. Count me in. I think this looks much better and more just interesting than any other way they could have gone, and I was extremely happy to see this idea.
Now, look, I take a lot of heat for this, and I don't care. When John Schnepp and I first walked out of the most recent Ghostbusters, the all-female Ghostbusters lead, I know that movie gets a lot of hate, but like Schnepp and I both were like, that wasn't bad. It's funny. It's not bad. But what killed the movie for me, what killed that the all-female version was the constant, every 5 minutes, look, everybody, here's a reference from the original Ghostbusters. Ooh, look, do you recognize that statue over there? Ooh, look, do you remember that line that we just said? It was like every 5 minutes of the movie, it became so thick. Every time they would do it, like the movie would get a little bit of momentum, and then they'd have to do a stupid nostalgia reference. And I don't mind nostalgia references, but like every 5 seconds, it was like boom, and every time it would pull me out of the movie. Every single freaking time. It's like, look, if you want to be your own movie, be your own movie. And that was constantly frustrating. What I loved about this was, yeah, we look in the closet, and there's the Ecto-1. But they were just there almost as, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? A MacGuffin. They were almost like, theoretical MacGuffins that were there to just kind of be an anchor point for us, but all the stuff with the characters stayed as new characters.
Right.
It's like, yeah, the mystery of the history of the Ghostbusters. It's like, wow, this is a replica. But remember, we're in the same world as the original Ghostbusters. And I felt it was just enough stuff in there to anchor us to the original Ghostbusters while totally making it feel different and new.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. The movie might suck. It might be horrible, but I like the approach they're taking with the trailer. So, question here is, guys, did you guys have a chance to watch this Ghostbusters trailer? It surprised me, but I give it a thumbs up. I like it. Rob seemed to like it a lot.
Loved
How
it.
did you guys feel? Did the fact that it doesn't feel like the original Ghostbusters off-putting to you? Do you feel like that was the right way to go? Do you feel like it was the wrong way to go? Tell me what you guys think. Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. Next thing off the top here is a little bit of a sadder note today. One of the actors, you guys know I talk about the show Boston Legal all the time. And of course, we're all Star Trek fans. Star Trek Deep Space Nine was one of the better Star Trek shows. Now, I always mispronounce his last name, but it's Rene Auberjonois.
Yeah.
Rene Auberjonois just recently passed away. And Rob, you were much more familiar with his work. I mean, I loved him on Boston Legal, but you were really, really familiar with him and his work, particularly in Star Trek. Your thoughts on the passing at 79?
Even back in on the Benson, the old sitcom Benson.
God, he was so good on Benson.
He was so good on that show. As Constable Odo, the changeling who didn't know who he was when Deep Space Nine began. The Great Link. I mean, he was irascible. He was always, his character was so great. And he was kind of he was a curmudgeon, but not. And he was always, his performance, and remember, he had to wear that prosthetic over his face
every
for 7 seasons. And a lot of he was such an expressive actor, and he was obviously he's theatrically trained, and he lived a good life. He was almost, I think he was either 80 or 79.
79.
And, we have 7 seasons of one of the best Star Trek shows ever. And his Odo is one of the great Star Trek characters. And he also in the show has a great ending. He doesn't die, but the last episode, what happens to him is wonderful. And so at least we have, if you're a Star Trek fan, if you've ever watched Deep Space Nine, go back and check it out because it's a fantastic series.
It's funny too because I was just recently watching him again. I got turned on to that show, Madam Secretary.
Right.
Because Aaron's husband, Tom, he appears in that show. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. And then I kind of, but Rene he developed a reoccurring character. Not a regular, but a reoccurring character.
Right, yeah.
And I loved him in that too. And it was just, and he had one of those voices. Like I remember he was in that Mel Gibson movie, The Patriot. And I remember before even seeing his face, I was looking away and he came on screen. You hear his voice. I was like, oh, there's Odo. And he had a very distinct voice. And yet another member of the Star Trek family that has passed away. René was 79 years old. I think they said he was suffering from cancer and he died at home and things like that. But anyway.
He was also in Star Trek 6, and interestingly enough, he played a character named Colonel West that was basically cut out of the theatrical version of Star Trek 6, but if you get the director's cut that was released on DVD, you can see him.
I didn't know that. I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so sad news today, and what a career. When you look through his IMDb, it's like, oh my God, this guy worked so much. He worked so much. What a life! What a career! And our thoughts and prayers, of course, out to the actual friends and family of that as well. All right, guys. Do you guys have a favorite role, a favorite movie or television show that you remember him from? Jump down in the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right. With that down, let's move on to one last off the top here, which is this. Speaking again, trailers is the theme of the day. Trailers is the theme of the day. I don't know if you knew this, Rob. But some time ago, Wreck-It Ralph got drunk and had sex with the Lego movie. And the result was a little movie that they're calling Free Guy. I mean, don't tell me that Ryan Reynolds wasn't Emmett the Special. This is clearly somebody sat down and went, well, there's Wreck-It Ralph and I love that. And then there's a Lego movie. What happens when we do this? This is the movie you get when you do that together. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing. By the way, I'm not saying that is a bad thing at all. I got a big kick out of this trailer. I thought it was to use the word a hoot. I thought it was a hoot. I smiled and giggled all the way through it, and it took me on my third viewing of the trailer because I totally forgot. But I'm like, who's the girl? Who's the girl? Who's the girl? And then I watched the trailer and go, who's the girl? I'm killing Eve. And then it's like, oh, that's right. So that. I thought it looked imaginative and creative and great. It looks bonkers. It looks like this has a much bigger budget than I thought. I haven't looked into how big the budget on this thing was, but I'll tell you what, in terms of just pure fun, this trailer has sold me a movie that is just going to be a lot of fun. At least that's what they're selling. Now, whether or not that turns out to be true or not, I'm not 100% sure at this point. But I got to tell you, man, I watched this trailer and I just smiled and grinned the whole way through it. Again, I could not shake the whole, oh, he's Emmett. Ryan Reynolds is Emmett from Lego Movie.
Right.
And this is, any minute now he's going to start singing Everything is Awesome. But you know what? It worked. It totally worked. Sometimes the best art was when artists take inspirations from other art and they create their own rendition of it. And I think this looks great. So I don't know, Rob, you had a chance to check it out. What do you think about the Free Guy trailer?
I thought it was a hoot. I thought it was really, really funny. I like the whole premise of it. My only concern is how can they sustain what is essentially a one-note joke for a whole movie, especially because we've seen Wreck-It Ralph. We've seen things like the Lego movie. I hope that there's a plot to go along with how clever it looks. The realization looks really, really well done. Very, very clever. I just hope the story to go along with it is equally as clever.
Well, I mean, like, I agree with you, but I was saying the exact same things because I was a naysayer of the Lego movie before it came out. I'm like, where are you gonna? It's a movie about plastic building blocks. What are you gonna do? How long can you make? Ooh, it's a cute little Lego doing a cute little thing. How far can you stretch that past 10 minutes? And they made it work.
Right. Well, they had all those characters too.
That's true. They gave us a lot of great characters. I'm not saying that Free Guy will do that, but I'm saying I give it a little bit more of a pass right now because I've had those doubts about other movies and they worked out. So this one might not. But right now, I'm going to go in hopeful.
It looks really fun.
All right, guys. Question is, though, have you guys had a chance to see this Free Guy trailer? If so, what did you think? Maybe you just thought it looked stupid. Maybe the fact that it was so much like a Wreck-It Ralph and Lego movie distracted you and pulled you out of it. Maybe it made you appreciate it a little bit more like I did. But I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, guys, let's move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys come up with them by just going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Fill out that form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. Also, I want to let you guys know that on the second hour of this show, we're just going to be taking all of your questions. You can fire in a question right now that will be on the show, but you can do that one of two ways. Number one, and the preferable way, is to look in the top line of the description of this video. You'll see a tip link there. Go ahead and use that tip link. Enter your question there, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Or you can use the super chat feature right here on YouTube. Either way, your question will be answered in video. Okay, with that down, let's move on to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Geeky Gator, who writes, "Hey, John and gang. The Playmobil movie debuted this weekend. Really? As much people probably wondered. As the third worst debut for a movie in 2,000 plus theaters, making only $668,000. There have been many animated movie flops this year. Ugly Dolls, Missing Link, Wonder Park, Angry Birds 2, and now this. What draws families to see animated movies that don't have the Disney or Pixar stamp?" All right, thanks a lot for sharing that, man. And first of all, it's an interesting observation. There have been many animated flops this year. I don't think it's the absence, though, of the Disney logo or Pixar logo. Those movies didn't look any good. Missing Link, turns out, was actually pretty damn good. But it didn't look good. The trailers weren't good. The trailers weren't interesting. Ugly Dolls did not look good. Nobody liked the first Angry Birds movie, and it didn't do all that great. Why did they think they should do another one? From all accounts, by the way, full disclosure, I passed on Angry Birds 2. I didn't go to watch it. From all accounts, it was a much better film than the first one, but it's too late. People didn't like the last one. The marketing for that one was terrible. No one went out to see it. So I don't think this is a matter of, like, for instance, How to Train Your Dragon is neither Pixar, Disney, anything like that, but it looks magnificent and it's built a reputation of trust with its audience. I don't think it's a matter of that it needs to have the Disney or Pixar logos on them, although those help because they have built a reputation of trust with their audience, that when you bring your families to see a Pixar film or a Disney film, you, most likely, are in for a good time. So they built that trust. But we've seen other successful animated films too. I think it's just a run of that these things just look terrible, as did Playmobil, and you're not wrong. Guys, we just witnessed history or didn't witness history, as the case may be, this weekend, as Playmobil is now actually the fourth lowest grossing wide release film of all time. Now, if you want to take the Saw 10th anniversary release out of the equation, you can, but it did get released in over 2,000 screens. So that's the thing. So the worst one, the worst opening weekend in history with over 2,000 screens, was the Oogie Loves in the Big Balloon Adventure. I was intimately acquainted with that movie because my entertainment lawyer who represented me for my movie, The Anniversary, was also the representation for Oogie Loves and was one of the producers on Oogie Loves. So I went to a party, Rob, 4 months before that movie came out. I went to a big Oogie Loves party in Las Vegas in the Playboy Suite at the Palms Hotel, which tells you something about how in touch with their audience they were. We're doing this kids movie called The Oogie Loves, and we're going to have our party. Where? At the Playboy Suite at the Palms Hotel. Sure.
And you know what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but when you're talking about it being Oogie Loves, it doesn't sound something that's really appealing for adults to get involved in.
Nope. No, sir, it does not, and nobody else got involved in it either. So that movie made $443,000. Then a movie from 2008 that none of you remember because none of you saw, called Delgo. Then, of course, the Saw, the re-release, the bad idea of a 10th anniversary release. They spent 10 times more money putting this back on over 2,000 screens than they made. So it made $650,000. Playmobil made $660,000. Not $6 million, not whatever, $660,000 by bounds. Less than half of what Gem and the Holograms made in its opening weekend with over 2,000 screens. So we have seen history now. We are seeing history in the making. And listen, I'll tell you what, it is difficult to release a movie on over 2,000 screens and make under $1 million. It's only happened 4 times in history. And Playmobil becomes the 4th. Rob, as you look at this, number one, the question about movies struggling, animated movies struggling, particularly this year, is it because it doesn't have the Disney or Pixar logo? But then second of all, kind of a in-context reflection of the event that we just saw here, the fourth lowest opening weekend in history. How do you put all that into words?
Well, here's the thing. You know, Lego is something that's ubiquitous. Every kid knows what that is. You talk Lego, it puts a smile on people's faces. With all of their licensed things, there's Harry Potter Lego, there's Batman Lego, there's Star Wars Lego. There's all kinds of Legos. People love Lego. Like you were saying, the Lego movie, could it be good? But people turned out to see it. Now you say Playmobil. Who knows what that is? My mom doesn't know what Playmobil is. My mom bought me Legos when I was a kid. I think just because one thing works doesn't necessarily mean immediately. I mean, kids aren't stupid. One day we're going to figure out that we should not infantilize kids. They're smarter than we know. And, you know, when you tell people there's a Playmobil movie coming out, I can't even see anybody getting really excited about that. I didn't even know this movie was opening, and I pay attention to this stuff. And I like Playmobil. And it's like, who thought that was a good idea? I don't know.
You know, they even got desperate and they started getting theaters to agree that they realized nobody was coming. They weren't marketing it, and they got the theaters to even go out and promote $5 tickets for it. And they still only managed to get a little over 100,000 people to go see it.
But what's amazing to me is that it got that far. That somebody said, hey, let's go do this. They didn't think about the fact that where in the cultural zeitgeist does Playmobil exist? Like, is there generations of kids that had it? I thought Playmobil stuff was cool, but it certainly wasn't ubiquitous the way Lego is. So it's not the same thing. Just because kids played with it doesn't mean it has that appeal.
Right. And so that's not to say that you can't make an original movie, but you do got to realize, since we are starting with something that is not ubiquitous, as you point out, that is not a household name with all of the movie-going audience right now, you're going to have to market it. And you're going to have to market it big. And they decided to cut bait and not even market it. And they kind of resigned themselves to going, you know what, this movie is a complete loss. We can sink another $40 million in marketing into it, which is what this movie needed. This movie, it didn't need $100 million worth of marketing. It needed a good $40 million marketing campaign, but they realized we're never going to make anywhere near that in the box office to even recoup the cost of marketing it. And this was really a movie that they just cut bait and realized this thing's a lost cause. We're not going to market it. We'll just hope that because it's a kid's movie, and we'll see if the theaters can give it a $5 ticket price or whatever, that maybe we'll recoup something. But this is an unmitigated disaster.
Did you read any reviews of it?
Yeah, I did.
Was it poorly reviewed?
It was poorly reviewed.
See, what I don't understand is the way animated films are made. The reason Pixar is so successful is because they work the stories for years and they develop them over time, so they know what's good and what's bad. They already know way before the movie's done whether it's going to be great. And it's always going to be great because they spend the time. How do you make an animated movie that doesn't work? The process lends itself to making sure if it's not working, you fix it early on in production. So it's baffling.
But at the same time, I mean, it is difficult making a good movie. It's
right.
really hard to make a good movie. But I mean, this one was just how this thing ever came to be. Because I think the only way you greenlight this movie in the first place is in advance knowing we are setting aside X amount of dollars for heavy marketing to raise awareness for this thing. And they didn't do that either. And it all came together in one disastrous perfect storm where it was a big mess. Guys, question is, we all knew Playmobil was going to do bad. Bottom 4 of all time bad? Even I didn't see that coming. Were you guys surprised by that? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know what you guys think. All right. With that down, let's move on to our second main topic today. And our second main topic today gets sent in to us by Angelo, who writes, so the trailer for the Wonder Woman 1984 movie just dropped. What do you think of it? Where do you guys think they're going to go with it since it's taking place before Justice League? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, the Wonder Woman 84 trailer dropped. A lot of us have been very curious to see how this is going to turn out. It came out, and I got to tell you guys, I loved it. I thought, now, keep in mind, it is a first trailer. I have different expectations from first trailers than I do from, say, second or third trailers. I don't expect in a first trailer to be told what the plot is. I expect to know what the movie's about by the end of the second or third trailers, but in the first trailer, I don't. So this trailer didn't give us really anything about the story of the movie, and I'm okay with that for a first trailer. What you got to do in this first trailer, though, hook the audience, give us a sense of the feel of the movie, and give us a sense of excitement, particularly when it's a movie like Wonder Woman. Not all movies need to give you a sense of excitement, but a movie like this particular genre, you do. And I found that this Wonder Woman trailer checked all the boxes. Now, I know there are still a lot of people rolling their eyes about the fact that Steve Trevor's back. I get that. I really do. You know me with fake deaths. Like nothing, there's no consequences in comic book movies. They all come back. It doesn't matter, blah, 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 blah. We knew he was going to come back. He had to come back. Chris Pine was the anchor of the first movie. You needed him back in this one as well. Because I don't mean to go into it again, but, you know, Gal Gadot is not a strong enough actress yet to literally carry a movie on her shoulders. She's just not. You need to have good pieces around her to let her shine. And I thought there was a great chemistry between her and Chris Pine last time. I think bringing him back was the right decision. I thought this trailer was great. I really do. And say what you want about whether you think, you know, how great of a thespian Gal Gadot may be. She makes action on screen look great. She does. And that came through here as well. Because I've seen some action actors and actresses that when they try to do action on screen and they're not using like stunt doubles or whatever, it doesn't come across as the most believable. When Gal Gadot does action on screen, she just has a natural knack for that stuff. She makes it look fluid and exciting and fun. And it looked great. Like even just this shot right here. She looks like she's in the midst of a fight. You know what I mean? She can pull that physicality off. And that was a very important element for this trailer. And on that level, I thought it was great. Did they get a little corny with the golden lasso? Maybe a bit. But you know what? Screw it. I had fun with it. I thought it looked good. But here's one of the other things, Rob, to me. I think not only is this a really good trailer, particularly for a first trailer, because I'm not looking for understanding the plot yet and all that. Let that stuff come later. What I thought was particularly interesting about this plot, though, is I believe we did not just get our first taste of the Wonder Woman movie. I feel like we got another taste and a little bit more of a glimpse about the direction overall that the DCEU is going. We've known for a while now, dude, that they have been foregoing worrying about their shared cinematic universe. They're not worried about crossover. We saw that in Aquaman. We saw that in Shazam. We're now heading into Wonder Woman, and not the slightest hint, whiff, or whatever. Now, of course, it's isolated in time, but even then, they could have thrown in, and look, everybody, there's the Flash. You know, they could have done that if they wanted to, but they have carried on in this new Walter Hamada philosophy of really letting each movie just focus on the character. Character, and tell their story. To hell with everything else we'll get around to later. And I feel like this movie accomplished two things. Number one, it was a great trailer for a first trailer. I got very excited by it. And number two, I feel like it once again reestablishes the Hamada philosophy of these movies are their own movies. And that's the direction we're going. I mean, we even saw that in the Elseworlds kind of Joker film that they did. And so I thought there was a lot in this trailer. And you know what I always say? The job of a trailer is to take your excitement level wherever it is for a movie, no matter how high or low, and bump it up a couple notches. I've already been excited for this movie because the great Patty Jenkins is directing it. I saw this trailer and it looked even better than I thought it would. So it has accomplished its mission and it's moved the needle for me. I'm stoked for this film. Rob, you had a chance to see it. And I want to know, what did you think about the trailer? I also want to know, do you think I'm looking too much into it? Or do you think there are little seeds there showing us the Hamada philosophy about the isolation of these movies?
Well, first of all, when the trailer first started, I heard the music. And I'm like, Oh my God, they have done a symphonic version of New Order's Blue Monday. Now, for those who don't remember the 80s or weren't born, Blue Monday was not a part of New Order's album Power, Corruption, and Lies. It was released as a single. And it was mind-blowing. It's the movie that got me into synth music, really, or it's the song that got me into synth music. And when I heard them carry over and this symphonic version of Blue Monday, I was losing my shit, to be honest. I was like, oh my God. And then at the end of the trailer, they seeg into the actual real version of it's playing. The kids are like dancing. It's all art. And I loved the fact that it's set in 84. That was my youth. That was when I was in high school, and so many memories because of that piece of music. But the trailer ends with Wonder Woman lassoing and swinging on lightning the way Spider-Man swings off of buildings.
Yes, it does.
And I was like, I'm in, flying with Steve Trevor with the fireworks blasting off the canopy as they're in the plane together. I don't know what's going on. What is that giant wall that's being blown up, in the water?
Right.
I don't know what any of that is. All I know is that I was grinning from ear to ear. Bring it on.
Yeah, listen, a couple really big highlights for me. Now, I've heard some people mentioning some concerns. Number one, they didn't tell us how Steve Trevor came back. Okay. And you know what? Not only should they not tell us that bit of information in the first trailer, they shouldn't tell us that in any of the trailers.
No.
That's something we need to all we need to know is that he is back. The hows and whys, that you save that part for the movie.
I think his return is all tragic. I think it's not going to end well. He was brought back. I love Maxwell Lord. Maxwell Lord was introduced in Justice League in 1987, which I loved. And Pedro Pascal is a little goofier than I thought, but I can't wait to see what they do with him. He was on
80s.
Smallville. Yeah. I mean, he's been on Smallville and other things, but I can't wait to see Maxwell Lord. But yeah, I think this movie, the direction, it says a lot. I think the fact that it is going to be so standalone, I think that it's its own thing, which I liked. I liked the fact that she's smashing the cameras that would see her. So maybe no one really knows who she is, and that's okay.
So the one objection was, well, they didn't tell us why Steve Trevor's back. I don't believe they should.
No, why would you want that? That's part of the movie.
Yeah, leave that part alone. Just let us know that he's there, but you don't give us everything. Second complaint was, they didn't really tell us what the movie's about. Again, if this was the second or third trailer, I would be joining that, but it's the first trailer. You don't start to need to tell us what the plot of the movie is yet. You tell us what the movie's about in the second and third trailer, we're fine. The last thing people complained about, that I heard some people complaining about, was the fact that we didn't even get to see Cheetah. She's the villain. Okay, true, but much like all the other stuff, believe me, we will get a glimpse of Cheetah before the marketing is finished. This was, again, the first trailer. You know what I mean?
Well, what do fans think they're supposed to get from trailers now?
Particularly the first trailer.
It's just telling you the movie's coming out. Why do you want to know everything in a trailer?
Yeah. Now, look, you know me, though, dude. I want my trailers to just tell me what the movie's about. Just let me know what it's about. Like, I'm not going to walk into Best Buy and buy a plain white box that says $20 on it and says box of surprise.
Right.
No, I'm not going to buy that. Tell me what is in the box, so at least then I can make a decision about whether or not I want it. But a first trailer doesn't need to accomplish all of that. And there's some things it shouldn't, like why Steve Trevor is back or any of that kind of stuff. Believe me, though, this is a superhero movie. They're going to give us a glimpse of the villain. They're going to highlight Cheetah later on, but we got a lot of time to go before that time comes. So I thought it was a win. I thought this Wonder Woman trailer was a big win.
I mean, they're showing something clearly big is going down in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
I don't want to know what that is right away.
No.
I mean, I thought it was an announcement trailer. It gave us a glimpse. I love her new, more colorful comic uniform.
Right.
And seeing the kingdom
her
come.
hot girl uniform.
Yeah. And seeing the kingdom come, the armor.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah. They did a lot of really cool things in there. Question is, guys, what did you think about the Wonder Woman? I understand. Look, I saw online, it didn't work for everybody. That's cool. Not every trailer does. I happen to love it. I think it was a fabulous trailer. I thought they knocked it out of the park. It did the job for me that it knocked up my expectations levels, but it's not going to do that for everybody. Question is, how did you feel about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Ronald Meacham, who writes, I had to do a double take when I looked at the box office results. No surprise that Frozen 2 was number 1 for the third weekend in a row, but I saw that it's made over $915 million in just 3 weeks. Which is more impressive to you, the total box office or the streak at number 1? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. Now, listen, I think the question is a little bit more complicated than some people think, because I think a lot of people will rush to the answer and saying 915 million in 3 weeks. That's obviously the bigger one. I mean, okay, 3 weeks at number one, 3 weeks isn't a long time, right? A few years ago, you could say that. Today, I honestly, I think this is just the third time this year that a movie has stayed at number one for 3 weeks in a row. It may be one or two more, but it has become an increasingly rare thing. With the rapidness that movies come out with now, on top of the growing trend that movies are more and more front-end loaded, more people go to see a movie in the first week or two than at any other time in history. Most people don't go to see a movie once it's in its fifth, sixth, and seventh week. It happens, but obviously the lion's share of the box office is done at the beginning. So for it to stay at number one for 3 weeks is very, very impressive. And actually, let's take a look at that impressiveness. Here's our top five from the box office this weekend. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood made $5.2 million. Queen and Slim made $6.5. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen Queen and Slim, you should. It's a wonderful film. Ford v Ferrari is my number 4 or 5. Is my number 5 favorite film of the year at $6.5 million. Knives Out, which is my number 3 favorite film of the year, took less than a 50% drop from its opening weekend. It sits at $14.1 million for this past weekend. And Frozen 2 in its third weekend makes $34.6 million. Again, driving it over $915 million at just the end of its third weekend. It's incredibly impressive. Rob, for me, while I was just saying that I think people underestimate now what an accomplishment it is for a movie to hang on, even when there's not a ton of competition, to hang on to that number one spot for 3 weeks in a row, I still got to go with $915 million at the end of 3 weeks. I mean, that is still astonishing to me. It's especially since I think a lot of us knew that this movie would be $1 billion film. But I think that after the $1 billion, there was a lot of question marks about how successful could it be. And they're just rocking the place right now. So, Rob, if the question was put to you, what's more impressive right now? Frozen 2 making $915 million after 3 weeks, or after the 3 weekends, or staying at number one for 3 weeks in a row?
Well, you know, we knew this was going to happen, John.
Yeah.
We were talking about this all year. And I think that if a movie is, obviously, it's a film people wanted to see and were waiting for, there's no reason why it can't stay at 3 weeks for this long. And it hasn't had competition, especially in the family space. I mean, this is the Frozen franchise now is a juggernaut. Every girl in the world wants to see it. And let's be honest, even their parents are enjoying these movies.
I enjoyed it, and I don't even have any kids.
And clearly people are going back and forth to see it again and again and again. And good on them. You know, I mean, what are movies supposed to do but deliver great entertainment? And Disney knows how to do that in their space. And it's great that people love this movie. But I think, to me, it's not surprising. Either one of them is not surprising. A 3 week streak, to me, that's, you know, if a movie's great, it should stay. And it is. There's been nothing that's come close. I don't see anything coming close to maybe until Rise of Skywalker. Maybe it'll win 4. What's next month? What's next week?
I can't even remember. I can't remember off the top of my head what next week is. But let me bring up something here. I'm going to bring up Box Office Mojo just for a second. And we're going to look at, let me see if I can get the year here. I don't know if I can find the thing for this year. But one of the things that this really makes jump out to me is everybody hails and praises Kevin Feige, rightfully so. You look at all the billion-dollar movies they've put together and all this kind of stuff. I think for a second, now I know I've given Alan Horn a lot of shit this year, mostly because of his handling of the James Gunn situation. But there's no taking away the dude's a genius. Because what this really does to me now, Frozen's about to hit $1 billion, and then Rise of Skywalker is going to hit $1 billion. You look at Disney, and it's great that we can all praise Kevin Feige. But Kevin Feige's boss, Alan Horn, he is now shepherding a year the likes of which we are never going to see again. Because Disney, a bunch of Disney's divisions have now cranked out these billion-dollar films. You know who the common denominator in all that is? Alan Horn. Alan Horn is the high general of all things Disney movies. He had a Disney Pictures movie in Aladdin become $1 billion film. He's going to have a Disney animation film become a $1 billion film. That's a different division. He's going to have his Pixar division, which is a different division from the Disney animation division, make a $1 billion film. He had his Marvel division make $1 billion films. And now he's going to have his Lucasfilm division make a $1 billion film. We can all stand in awe of Kevin Feige, and well, we should, because Feige's the man. But not enough people give Alan Horn the credit he deserves for being the overall shepherd of all the movie stuff that goes on at Disney, because it ain't just the Marvel brand that's bringing in $1 billion films. You got studios, entire studios, that cannot crank out the number of $1 billion films that Alan Horn does in just one of his divisions. And he's got all of his divisions cranking out $1 billion films. And I think it's this kind of thing. I think this is a tipping point that people are going to have to stop and go, we need to talk more about Alan Horn and what he has done. He's done some gaffes, and I've given him shit for it over the year, granted. But that doesn't take away for what a magnificent job this guy has done. And I don't know, Rob, do you think I'm overplaying this, or do you think it's really about time that we start looking more at Alan Horn and the job he's done with this movie division?
Well, I mean, yes, I think to a certain extent, absolutely. But of course, Bob Iger has brought all of these units underneath one roof, and they're allowing these people to do their jobs. And I think that Alan Horn is shepherding these things. He's not, there's no studio interference, really. For the most part, they know that these people, whether it's the animation division, whether it's Marvel, whether it's Pixar, whether it's, well, maybe not so much at Lucasfilm, but we'll see. But everybody knows what they're doing. And to be a leader like Alan Horn is, and to allow these people to succeed, that takes, a lot of people would want to interfere and put their imprimatur on it, their fingerprints. I think Alan Horn's smart enough to know, no. We've got these thoroughbreds that we now, they're all under our roof. Let's let them run. Let's let them do what they do.
I think he's more involved than we think.
Maybe.
But I don't know that it's interference. I think it's him doing his job,
that's
which
what I mean.
is
Yeah,
making sure they all understand his vision.
Yep.
Now you go, because I trust you, I vetted you, I know we're on the same page. Now you go and do your thing.
I mean,
at that point.
It's amazing. And remember, he came over from Warner Brothers. He's one of the most experienced.
They pulled him out of retirement. To come and that's what Bob Iger did.
And how smart, once again, Bob Iger, man, the Machiavellian. I mean, if there's one guy that you got to admire, it's him, because wow, Disney has had a year the likes of which I would not want to be working at Disney next year, though.
No.
Because the pressure, this is such an incredible year. I just hope that the shareholders and everybody realizes this is a perfect storm that only comes along. Well, it never.
Yeah, and you know that Iger and Alan Horn are going to probably retire at the same time. Alan Horn's been like, let me get back to my Tahiti and my mojitos on the beach. Let me get back to that. So I think they're going to retire at the same time. Can you imagine trying to step in and fill the shoes of Bob Iger and Alan Horn?
No.
At that point, which I still think Kevin Feige is going to be the guy to replace Horn, but we'll see how that goes. The question is, guys, what do you think about this achievement of Frozen? And which one do you think is the more impressive accomplishment? The $915+ million, the 3 weeks at number one. How do you see it overall? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Sebastian K., who writes, there wasn't a lot of big headline stuff from Marvel at the Comic-Con going on in Brazil. There was some interesting stuff. Brought up. But what I thought was interesting is what wasn't talked about, namely Deadpool. We've now gone through Comic-Con, D23, and now Brazil Comic-Con with no news or explanation about what's going on with him, the Merc with a Mouth. Why do you think that is? All right, thanks a lot for sending in that question, man. And I think, Sebastian, you raise a fascinating point, because as I was reading, the highlights of what went on, and there's some interesting things. They talked more about Black Widow. They showed a little bit of Eternals footage, and nothing ground shaking or anything like that. But I didn't even think about it. It wasn't until, Sebastian, I got your email that I thought, you're right. Still nothing. Still no word, nothing about Deadpool. Now, what some people might say is, but John, They also haven't talked about X-Men or Fantastic Four yet. Yes, but with X-Men and Fantastic Four, there are more problems and hurdles and things they need to work around to introduce that. We had this big ongoing cinematic universe. It was all thing. We need to reboot it. How do we bring it in? What are we going to tie it in with? Blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Deadpool doesn't have those problems because Deadpool didn't exist within any continuity anyway. It even breaks continuity with itself, which is part of the charm of the Merc with a Mouth. By the way, I love this graphic that Ray put together. I think that's awesome. That's part of the charm of the Merc with a Mouth. It is I'll say this, I'm not going to say it's easy, but I think it's fair to say there are much fewer obstacles that Disney needs to hurdle in order to bring Deadpool to the screen. Deadpool, until recently, was the number 1 and number 2 R-rated box office films in history until recently. These movies are incredibly successful. They have an incredibly popular star right now. Much fewer obstacles in the way to get him going. The question becomes, why on earth have we gone through Comic-Con, we've gone through D23, and now we've gone through, Rob, by the way, a thing we got to go to next year, which is this Brazilian Con. We have to go there. It's getting bigger and bigger every year. We got to go next year. And still nothing. I think there's one of two possibilities, and I'll tell you which one I think it is. Possibility number 1 is that they just want to keep it quiet for now. They want to keep it under wraps. They got big surprises coming, whatever, and they're trying to keep it under wraps. And I think that is par for the course when it comes to Disney and Kevin Feige and how they do their business. They like to keep everything tight-lidded until it's time to not have a tight lid on it. But option number 2, and I'm not going to lie to you, I think this is what's happening. I still don't think they know what they're going to do. I still think they're still trying to hash out and figure out what is the best way to handle Deadpool. Because Bob Iger, we know, does not want R-rated stuff mixed in with the MCU. That's a convolution of the brand. He doesn't want to risk that trust he has with the families and with parents and all that kind of stuff. Say, oh, this movie in the MCU is rated R, this one isn't, and cause that whole kerfuffle. So what do you do with them? We've talked ad nauseum, Rob, about there are a few options. Number 1, you do him rated R outside of the MCU, and he's got his own things, and you don't cross him over with the MCU. Number 2, you make him PG-13, and you bring him into the MCU, and maybe then there's a third option, which I don't think works, have him rated R in his own films, and then rated PG-13 in the MCU films. Again, that seems to break Bob Iger's edict that will just cause confusion with parents and audiences about parents knowing what, like, my kid's screaming at me because we saw Deadpool in an Avengers movie, but now I won't take him to see this one because it's rated R. Thanks a lot. That's the stuff that Bob Iger takes very, 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 whether you do or not, whether I do or not, it's irrelevant. Bob Iger takes that stuff very seriously.
Yeah.
But it is an option on the table. I think it's the least likely one, but it's still in play. And Rob, I think because you're talking about a character that has made $1.5 billion as an R-rated franchise in 2 movies, and no one ever even heard of Deadpool before that, I think they're going to be very, very careful. And I honestly think right now, and I could be wrong, this is just me speculating, I don't think they've come to a final decision yet. I still think they're still hashing this out. They know they've got 35 other movies on the burner right now. They know they're not in a huge rush, although you don't want to wait too long. But I think right now they still just don't know what they're doing, because I was a little bit surprised once I realized that, yeah, they didn't mention Deadpool. That surprised me a little bit coming out of Brazil. Rob, were you surprised that they still haven't mentioned it? And if so, what are your theories to why they're not really giving any words to this yet?
I wasn't surprised at all. I feel exactly the way you do. I think they have no idea. And by the way, I don't necessarily think it's a priority. Remember, you're coming off of Endgame, which made almost $3 billion.
Yep.
Kevin Feige has how many TV shows that they're making for Disney Plus? He's got Eternals. He's got Black Widow. He's got the Thor: Love and Thunder and Blade. I mean, he's got a full plate. And these are things that he controlled. Remember, Deadpool's a hand-me-down. I mean, as much as I love the Deadpool films and all that, do they have a real incentive to go back Deadpool's great, but they've got their own thing that they've built that's incredibly successful. It's the most successful run of films of all time. So why not keep doing that? Where's the incentive to go make a Deadpool movie when every movie you're making averages out to $1 billion?
Yeah. And you've got about 15 or 20 projects in the works right now.
Yeah, and that are going to be good.
So no rush, whatever. But I got to admit, I thought it's been, over a year since we heard about, the merger of these two things. Well, longer than that, really, if you go back to the original announcement. So the fact that they still haven't told us what's going on. And Rob, it's been like 9 months since we were at CinemaCon and Alan Horn came on stage with, we got plans for this guy, and put up a big picture of Deadpool on the thing 9 months ago, and we still know what they're doing.
And I also think, if you think about the MCU, they're losing their heavy hitters in Captain America and Iron Man.
Right.
The Fantastic Four and the X-Men are heavy hitters. So if the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever starts to plateau and go down, they've got the X-Men and the Fantastic Four waiting in the wings to re-energize the brand. And people will wait, because by not having them, they bring up interest. And I think it's a pretty good strategy, because they'll get at least another 5 or 6 or maybe even a decade out of those properties once they're properly introduced into the MCU.
Question here is, guys, were you surprised, or maybe you weren't at all, that Disney is still keeping a tight lip on what's going on with Deadpool? Do you think it's because they just don't want to announce it yet? Or do you think, like I think, and by the way, I could totally be wrong, they could totally know what they're doing, but my suspicion right now, totally as a fan speculation, is that I don't think they've made a final decision yet. I think they're still evaluating, and they know they've got lots of time. But what do you think about it? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our final topic today. And our final main topic today gets sent in to us by Jim, who writes, "Hey, John and gang. So, judging from the first episode, this crossover sucks. I want 41 minutes of my life back. Have you seen it? If not, save yourself some time. Keep it filthy." From Jim. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Jim. And of course, Jim is talking about the highly anticipated Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover that I finally watched this morning. I didn't watch it last night. I watched it this morning while I was at the gym, brought my iPad with me, had it on the treadmill, and watched Crisis Episode 1. I will say this. I did not dislike it as much as you did, Jim. I'm just going to say that. I did not dislike it nearly as much as apparently you did, my friend. And that's fine, and that's cool. A couple of things. For those of you who saw Crisis, you already know one thing that bothered me incredibly.
You were going off, too.
And you know what? I am simply not going to give them the satisfaction of going on another rant about it. You know what? Again, every chance they get, CW loves to shit on Superman. Don't forget, everybody, Superman's an inferior superhero in this universe, and they just do it every single time. And they did it again this episode. It's like, you can't have Superman and Supergirl together without reminding everybody that Superman is a B-level hero in this universe. Okay, whatever. I simply can't just keep getting mad about it. It's because they're not going to change. I already know how they treat Superman. I already know what they do. They break the cardinal sin. You do not turn Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman into a jobber. And they have constantly made Superman a jobber in that universe, and they continue to do it every chance they get. But what am I going to do? Am I going to get upset they do it every time when I know they're going to do it every time? So I'm just not going to go. I know a lot of people are tuning in today thinking I was just going to explode on this Superman thing. And believe me, I feel it, but what's the point of my continuing to bitch and moan about it? Right? I mean, what's the point? We already know what they're doing. They're not going to change what they're doing. So I'm going to decline the invitation from the universe to go off on this thing again full throttle. There's just no point. They're idiots. There it is. All right. So let's talk about some of the other things. Let me tell you about a couple things that I liked about this episode. Number one, I like the fact, you guys know I believe Arrow is the center of the Arrow universe, of the Arrowverse. I believe that's key. I still like that when all the heroes are assembled, and I'm not going to give spoilers away, but when all the heroes are assembled, who's calling the field commands? Who's yelling out the orders? It's Arrow. And they maintain that, and I appreciated that. I think that's when this universe works best. He is the field general. He's the guy that even all these superpowered beings look to lead. And I liked that. I thought that was great. I like the Monitor. There are two things, though, that I really didn't like. one thing that I didn't like at all was that this Crisis on Infinite Earths is supposed to be like the CW universe's big culmination, likened unto Infinity War and Endgame. But it doesn't feel like that at all. It feels like just another Elseworld story. Like every year we do these great Arrowverse crossover things, and I enjoy them. I always do. I always do enjoy them. But they're never really big and consequential. They are just they feel like little side stories. Crisis on Infinite Earths is something they've been building up and trying to kind of promote as this Infinity War Endgame level event. And honestly, I watched it and it just felt like another side story. That's all it really felt like. The second thing that really bothered me, and this was a creative decision. For those of you who've not seen the episode, I'm about to drop a spoiler. I'm giving you big heads up warning, okay? Big heads up warning. I'm about to drop a spoiler about episode 1 of Crisis, okay? Just so you're aware. So if you want to click mute right now, click mute for about 30 seconds. I'll wave my hand when it's safe to turn back on the audio, okay? Ready? Here we go. To have Arrow die on somebody else's show was a horrendous decision. To have Oliver die on a Supergirl episode. Now, granted, it's Crisis on Earth, on Infinite Earths episode 1, but it's the Supergirl episode that they did it on. I thought that was a tremendous disservice to the character who is the founder of the entire Arrow universe. I thought that was a terrible decision. All right. You can come back now. You can turn your audio back on. Okay, that aside. So overall, I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was awful. You expect some cheesiness and whatever in it, and it's there. It had some ups, had some downs. I will say overall I was disappointed in it, but I didn't hate it. I'm seeing some people who really viscerally hated it. I did not viscerally hate it. I thought it had its upside, but I was a little bit disappointed. Rob, I know you haven't had a chance to see it yet.
I haven't seen it
yet. It just aired
but
last night.
Yeah, but man, did I get a lot of emails and DMs. People were pissed.
Really? You heard a lot of negativity.
A lot of negativity, and I'm like, how bad could it be? But you know what? It is Crisis on Infinite Earth, so I want them to end it where there's only one Earth left. You know, at the end, there's the Earth where everybody lives. And if they do that, is Oliver really dead?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, because it was, again, you just spoiled something I told everybody to keep spoil-free.
Oh, I didn't. Well, yeah, I mean, you've read the comics.
Okay, right,
you know.
Yes, but most people have not. You got to remember that. Most people have not. But one thing was interesting, and this was in a promo clip. Oh. This was in a promo clip. One part of the episode where all the heroes are fighting a bunch of things, right? They're all fighting a bunch of things. And, you know, Arrow is taking out a bunch of them with arrows. And I thought, why not just have 50 U.S. Marines with big machine guns sitting on top there fighting these things? I just wonder, can somebody give me an answer for that? I can't right now. Anyway, guys, question is, did you guys have a chance to see Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1? If so, jump down to the comment section below and let us know what you guys think. All right. With all that down, guys, we've got a bunch of live questions that you guys are sending in. We're talking more about all the things we already covered. We're going to talk more about the Wonder Woman thing. We're going to talk more about Ghostbusters. You guys have been sending in those topics. But as we always do every day, Robert and I are now going to take a short 4-minute break to rest the vocal cords, stretch our legs, refill the drinks, and all that kind of stuff. Give you guys a chance to run to the bathroom and go top off your drink as well. So hang tight. Don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back in 4 minutes. Don't go anywhere. All right, and we are back. Thank you guys for your indulgence and patience as we took a little bit of a break there. And now we are going to go on and take your questions. By the way, guys, like I said before, there are two options that you have if you want to submit a live question for us to address here on the show. Number one, you can use the super chat feature here on YouTube. Number two is the preferable way, which is the link in the top of the video description, the tip link. The advantage of the tip link, besides the fact that YouTube doesn't take 1/3 of it, is the fact that you can use that tip link 24 hours a day if you want to send in a question or a topic, and then we will get to that question or topic that you send in at the beginning of the very next show that we do. So you can actually send it in anytime. But anyway, with that down out of the way, let's get to the stuff that you guys have been sending in. And we're going to get things started here with Casinema Reviews, who writes, I don't think Daniel meant change the scene. I remember, this is from a previous question on a previous show. I don't think Daniel meant to change the scene. He created the scene of Maul and Kenobi, but the issue is that you could have established Ezra and whatnot. So somebody wrote in and said, what if you change the scene? Could you have Darth Maul as a villain in the Obi-Wan series if you change what happened in Rebels? And I explain why that can't happen. Casinema is suggesting that maybe what they meant by that is just recreate the scene in Obi-Wan in a live action series. The problem with that, as I've addressed before, is the reason you can't just recreate it is because from Obi-Wan's point of view, Darth Maul just shows up, they have a fight, and Darth Maul dies. That's it. And it all happens within the span of about 2 minutes. You can't have an Obi-Wan series where Obi-Wan is just going around his day, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, without any explanation, without any background, Darth Maul is here. Man, I'm going to kill you. And then they have a quick 20-second fight, and he kills Darth Maul, and that's it. What's the point of that? You know, we've discussed that before, so that's why I kind of reject that one. All right. Anonymous Larry David writes, one of two. Hey, John. I never thought I'd say this, but I kind of miss being told what to watch. By this, I mean turning on the television and watching that movie. I would never seek out, but since it's on, I'll watch it. One of the more seedy streaming apps I've downloaded has genre-based streaming channels, and I love them. Click on the horror channel, and a horror movie is playing. Comedy channel, you get comedy. Do you think major streaming services will ever do something like this? You raise an interesting question, Larry David, that Rob, I have had conversations with friends before about, a lot of times back in the older days of television, when, movies would be on TV and you didn't have 5,000 channels to watch, if a movie was on, you'd sit down and watch it. And now I got exposed, but there were a lot of movies I got exposed to for the first time because of that very thing. Now it's all about choice and options. And just because Empire Strikes Back isn't on TV right now, you can watch it if you want. You can just click on a few buttons and you're watching Empire Strikes Back. Do you think that's something that that's going to be part of the charm and things that we're going to lose out of all this? Or do you think streaming services might just start a 24-hour rotating channel on their streaming service that you just pop that on and something's going to be on and you just, how do you think they're going to do it?
I think people are already doing it. Like, isn't it Pluto? Is Pluto the streaming station?
Yeah, I like Pluto, by the way.
They've got a James Bond channel.
I didn't realize that.
Well, I think it's Pluto, and it's just all the 24 official Bond movies. I don't know if Casino Royale and Never Say Never Again are there, but why not? Like, there's a place you can always go to see James Bond movies. I love that idea.
That's a neat idea. All right, next up comes to us from, where are we at? Samir Durrani, who writes, you guys, Doctor Who fans? I'm not. Was not a fan of Series 11, but I'm hopeful for Season 12. The new trailer looks great. John, I believe you haven't seen Peter Capaldi, who's in the new Suicide Squad movie, on screen before. To that, I got to say is his Zygon speech in Series 9. So, yes, while I have a ton of people, Rob, in my life who are big Doctor Who fans. As a matter of fact, we just went to a wedding not long ago for one of Anne's cousins, Filipino cousins, and they had a total Doctor Who themed wedding. I have not watched Doctor Who since I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, I would watch the, who was the one with the scarf?
Tom Baker.
Tom Baker. I watched the Tom Baker Doctor Who reruns when I was a little kid, but that's about it. It's just never, I don't dislike the new Doctor Who. I just never got around to watching the new ones at all. Have you been a Whoite at all, Rob?
I've always liked Doctor Who, but I'm not into it as much as some people, but I've caught all the new Doctors, since they started back up in 2005. And I've enjoyed Doctor Who, some more than others. But this new season does look good. I like the choice of the new Doctor Who. I don't think the scripts for last season were always the best. But Jodie Whittaker, I think, makes a fine first female Doctor. And I hope they've said that the new season's going to start with a real bang. And I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Next up comes us from Timbula the Spider Monkey, who writes, whereas I'm not big on the last Mandalorian episode, I can't help but think there must be more to it than what we saw. After all, they knew they only had 8 episodes. Would Favreau really let Filoni use only 1 episode as filler, set up for future? Listen, we've gone into this, Timbula. I really was. It's the first episode of Mandalorian I was really quite disappointed in. I did not like this latest episode because it didn't accomplish anything. There was no character development. There was no relationship development. You don't always have to further the main storyline, but if you're not, you got to have those other elements as well. And none of them were there. Yes, you can make an argument that last scene with those boots, well, that doesn't justify an entire episode. So it couldn't have done much for the Ming-Na character because she dead. It can't do much for the young bounty hunter character because he dead. It didn't do anything. So, I mean, yeah, they'll do something with the boots we saw at the end, but you didn't have to waste an entire episode to have 1 5-second shot at the end. I don't know, Rob, how would you respond to that?
Well, the more I thought about it, the more I'm sort of confused. You had an episode with Jawas and a sandcrawler, and then you went to Tatooine. Why didn't they put those together as a 2-parter? Or combine that story, because it seems strange that Jawas and a sandcrawler were not on Tatooine. And then we got an episode that was on Tatooine, and it's sort of, so we got 2 Tatooine episodes, which I think is kind of odd. And it makes that last episode even more of sort of a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But Jawas are a galactic species. They're not only on one planet.
But then how do they get there? Do they just build sand crawlers wherever they go?
Sure, I guess so. I mean, they're settlers, Rob. They're like Catan. They're settlers. All right. Next up here.
Good reference.
We've got, who are we? Also, Timbula the Spider Monkey. Also, Filoni tickles kittens. You have evidence of this? Them's fighting words. I can't remember what I said that in response to that. Somewhere I know Filoni's tickling kittens, or I can't remember what that was about. But I'm glad you enjoyed that, Timbula. All right. Next up, we've got Anonymous, who writes in, hey, John, big fan from Vancouver. I love Vancouver. Thanks for writing that in, man. Where are we at here? Just wondering why no one on The Mandalorian notices the resemblance of Baby Yoda to the most famous Jedi Master in the galaxy. If it takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi, a little more oohs and ahs. Thanks. But remember, nobody knew Yoda in Return of the Jedi. It had actually been decades, probably, since anybody thought of or heard the name of Yoda. And remember, the Empire, after they took over, they eradicated all things about the Jedi. They got rid of everything. So remember, it's not just a few years, because Yoda had disappeared decades before the events of the original trilogy. So that's really not an issue there. I don't know, Rob, how would you explain that?
Well, the galaxy is a big place. And like you said, Yoda had disappeared decades before. And people, know if you were to meet a famous leader from another country, like Justin Trudeau, would you know who he was? Like, right. If 20 years later, would you?
Maybe, maybe not. It's a good point. All right, let's see. Let's go on here. Next up, we have David Z, who writes, hey, John, I came across your show back in February when YouTube recommended your Brie Larson outrage video. Really loved what you had to say. Over under 70%. Rob has the DVD collector's edition of Basic Instinct. Oh, I'm going to tell you. Look, you could ask me over under 70% that Rob has the 1999 Ukrainian silver spoon set based on Basic Instinct. If it's anything to do with Basic Instinct, I'm going to go over on that. So it's Rob has the DVD collector's edition of Basic Instinct, comes in a clear case with pen ice pick. I got to go yes, Robert.
You are correct, sir. That was Lionsgate put that out. It came in an ice case, and then it came with an ice pick. It was delightful. But you know what? The transfer wasn't so good, and I can't wait to get that new 4K.
Yeah, this dude loves his Basic Instinct. That's something you guys got to know. All right, next up, David Z also writes, with 2019 coming to a close, here are my 5 favorite films from 10 years ago. In no particular order. Number 1, The Wrestler. Number 2, I Love You, Man. That is one of Anne's all-time favorite comedies.
That's 10 years old?
Is that, yeah, I guess so.
I'm going to die soon.
Slap at the base. Anyway, number 3, Up. Number 4, Avatar. And 5, Inglourious Bastards. Honorable mention, Moon. Moon is still a film, Rob, that to this day doesn't get the credit it deserves. And not enough people have watched Moon. There will be some people that talk about Moon a little bit, but really not enough people have gone and watched it. With Sam Rockwell and directed by Bowie's son. Why am I forgetting? I had him in my studio.
Yeah,
and I'm forgetting it. And he directed Warcraft.
Duncan
Jones.
Duncan Jones.
Fabulous movie. Which one of those? I mean, first of all, I love you, man. Any of those movies stand out to you?
Well, yeah,
on David's list.
I loved all of them. I can't believe Inglourious Bastards is 10 years old. God, I loved Avatar. I loved Moon. I love you, man. I love you, man.
All right, next one up. Ben Ellman writes, "Hey, John, if you enjoy the first 3 parts of CW's Crisis, well, we're not off to a great start. Of CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths enough, would you consider doing a spoiler live stream so we can get your full thoughts and talk about what we think will come next when it returns for its finale in January? Maybe. Here's the thing. While I rant every once in a while about things, I actually don't enjoy talking about things I don't like. I know hate angry videos get a lot of clicks. I get that. But, that's why I didn't like this last episode of The Mandalorian. And so Ann and I decided not to do a spoiler discussion of The Mandalorian because I don't want to spend 40 minutes just bitching and moaning and complaining. I mean, look, as film fans, there is a place for bitching and moaning and complaining. There's a place to do that and a time to do that. And I agree with that. But I felt like I'd already given my review. I really didn't like the episode. So instead of just trashing on it more just for the sake of trashing on it, what's the point? So I decided not to do a spoiler discussion for that. I didn't hate this episode of Crisis, but it needs to get better. It needs to get better. And if it does, then yes, I will consider doing that. But if it doesn't, then I don't want to just spend an hour complaining about something that other people may like. Now, if somebody wants to ask me a question about Infinite Earths, I'll give my honest answer, like I do about the prequels or about it. If people want to ask a question that revolves around that, I'll give you my thoughts. But I don't like to just whine and bitch and moan just for the sake of whining and bitching and moaning. I do enough whining and bitching and moaning as it is. I don't need to do it. I don't need to go out of my way to do it when it's not necessary. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Let's see Ben Ellman how these next couple episodes do. Again, I don't think it's off to a great start, but that doesn't mean it can't turn it around really quick in the second one. So let's see how that goes. Anyway, thank you for writing that in and asking, man. All right, Murray Reich writes, saw Dark Waters, and it was very good. Mark Ruffalo and Tim Robbins, still haven't seen it, by the way, myself. Tim Robbins' performances were great. Another true event movie I liked. It's crazy. I've never heard about the story until now. 7.5 out of 10. Hashtag more of these, please. It looks, I loved it the first time we saw the trailer. It's got a terrific cast. I'm a sucker for these based on true event movies, especially about heroes and things like that. I'm totally into it, Rob. I don't think you've had a chance to see it yet yourself. But have you been looking forward to it?
I have. It's one of those subgenres of movies, fighting against polluting corporations, Aaron Brockovich style.
Which I loved Aaron Brockovich.
I know. I love movies like this. I love when people go up against corporations or when the little guy goes up against the large. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Verdict.
Oh,
which is,
yeah.
About going up against a church-run hospital. I love shit like that, so I can't wait to see this movie.
All right. Next up, also Murray Reich writes, one of two. During seeing Dark Waters, I was sitting on top, and a couple of minutes after movie started, some 3 teenagers came in and came to my row. Theater half empty besides some people watching. And they started giggling and laughing and playing on my phone. I'm going to guess they played on their own phones, because if they just came up and took your phone and started playing with it, I'm guessing that probably didn't happen. 10 minutes later, they decided to leave, which had me figured they were in the wrong room. But 15 minutes later, they came back and made a racket. I was forced to tell them to be quiet. Either they stay quiet or I'll call a theater worker. They left after some people complained. I have found... Because about 5 years ago, I thought it was a big problem for a while. I have found I have not had experiences like this one, Murray, nearly as much in the last 5. It still happens, but I found I don't have stuff like that happen nearly as much in the last few years as it has previously. When it comes to, though, people disrupting other people's theatrical experience, that whole thing about snitches get stitches, don't be a rat, that doesn't apply to the movie theaters. Because you're going to come into a movie theater and ruin everybody's experience when they paid money. They set their evening aside. They paid money to come in here and watch a movie, not to listen to some idiot jackass sitting in the back. That's just the thing. So you tell them, yes, polite. You always be polite. Don't go, shut up. That just exasperates the situation. Say, hey, man, seriously, excuse me, but we're trying to watch the movie, man. Do you mind? Like if you say, because sometimes you'll say that to somebody and they'll be aghast that they were disturbing you. It's like, oh my God, I'm so like, I find that happens a lot. And now they don't say anything. And then if that doesn't do the trick, then yes, get up, go tell a theater manager or something, because you deserve, and everybody else in that theater deserves to have a proper viewing experience. And if the theater is doing their job, and they have the correct picture and correct sound, and you got a good bag of popcorn, then it shouldn't be ruined by an X element of some other jackass coming in and ruining it for people. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, no, there's no such thing as rats when it comes to the movie theater. You either shut up or you need to get thrown out. And again, Rob, I don't have a problem with like people sitting in front of me or beside me where they'll lean over and whisper something to each other.
Right.
Like if you're trying to be considerate and you got something to say to your buddy that might enhance your experience at the movie, as long as you're being considerate and trying to be quiet, that's cool. I got no problem with that. But we've all had these experiences. But I'm very lucky that I haven't had one like this in a while. What about you, Rob? Have you?
Not in the movies, but I was at a concert at the Hollywood Bowl, and a group came in really late, a group of, I would say, like 10 or 15 people, and they were talking. And this is a classical music concert. A number of people told them to be quiet. I figured maybe after the intermission they would be. They weren't. And I finally turned around and very angrily, I did what you said not to do, John. You're probably right. But I was very emphatic about telling him to shut up. And then after the concert was over, one of the guys there wanted to fight me. He literally wanted to fight me. And whenever somebody says that, I just stand up and I get real quiet. I lean forward into them and I'm like, let's go. And you never.
How many people may know Rob's a big guy, by the way.
I mean,
Rob's a big guy.
It's funny because that's all you have to do, and most people will be like, "Oh," but it was interesting. Like you go to a classical concert and you talk, like it's unbelievable to me. I'm like, why are you even there?
Yeah, I don't get it. I just don't get why there are people like that.
I mean, you're paying to talk to your friends,
right? But and sometimes these people think, well, I paid to be here, so I have to. No. We all paid to be here.
Right.
And we have the right not to hear you run your mouth. So shut up. And I'm just very grateful that it doesn't happen more often.
I haven't had it happen in the movies, John. I can't remember the last time.
Yeah, it's been years since I've had that happen in the movies. But hey, other people have that experience. But I think fortunately it's shutting down. But listen, guys, if you have that experience, ask once nicely, like Dalton, like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. Be nice. Be nice until it's time to not be nice. But that point is not you taking it on yourself. It's going to tell a theater manager and get them removed. That's just the fair thing to do.
I love that you just brought up Roadhouse.
Be nice.
And that you know is Swayze's character's name.
Okay, what's next here? Anonymous writes, I recently started rewatching Spirited Away. Wonderful film. So good. I remember I was terrified watching this film when I was a kid. Oh yeah. Like a lot of the Studio Ghibli stuff is like questionable when it comes to that. Somehow this movie truly hits me when I get older. One of the unique experiences I had, the best Ghibli movie in my opinion. And it's hard to argue against that. But again, Studio Ghibli has this thing about, that's a lot like Pixar in many ways. Pixar does not make kid films. They make kid-friendly films, but they're not kid films.
Right.
And you got to be very careful because like I don't think you can look at an animated movie and say, oh, it's a cartoon. I can just sit down and watch it with the kids. Do not watch Grave of the Fireflies with your children, ladies and gentlemen. Do not do it. I'm still traumatized with that damn movie. But they go for depth. They always go for a second and third level layer of meaning. And a lot of it will go over a children's head, but it's wild because they understand too. Guess what? Just because we're adults, that doesn't mean we don't have imagination and creativity and love to be whisked away to these different places, whether you're talking about a moving castle or Spirited Away or Firefly or whatever. It's some great stuff. So it's not my personal number one, but it's hard to argue against that one. Rob, you got a favorite one?
God, I think the first one I saw was My Neighbor Totoro.
Yep. Anne loves that one.
Yeah, and then Nausicaa I saw, but then when they started bringing him to America with Princess Mononoke, and I think Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah.
I love Howl's, but Spirited Away is great too. But yeah, I Howl's Moving Castle, I don't know, I just love that.
By the way, correct me. I always say Princess Mononoke. But you pronounce it.
I said Mononoke. I could be wrong.
I think you're probably right now. I think I'm always pronouncing it wrong. Anyway, all right, let's move on here. Mike C writes, "Hey John, just started Barry, nice, and finished season 1 in a night. And well, the nice thing about Barry is that they're short episodes.
Yeah,
so you can get through the first season pretty good. This show is incredible. My favorite comedy on right now, and easily one of the best shows I've seen. Bill Hader deserves all the praise. Anyone with access to HBO, please watch." And listen, Mike, you're in for some good stuff in season 2. Now, I personally think season 1 is the better season. Personally, I think season 1's the better season. But that's not taking anything away from season 2. Season 2 is great, but I'll tell you what. There's one episode in season 2 that is simply one of the best episodes of television I've seen in a long, long time. And I won't give any spoilers away. It's the episode with the Taekwondo guy. If you watch Barry, you're already just giggling to yourself thinking about that episode. It is one of the strangest, coolest, most hilarious episodes, particularly of comedy, that I have seen in age. Did you see season 2 of Barry yet, Rob?
No.
When you get to that episode, you've got to...
You're not the first person to tell me that either.
By the way, our friend, Cody Miller, who just won another gold medal this week, by the way. Olympic gold medalist who does best movie, worst movie. By the way, we had another chat yesterday. We're aiming for January to do season 2 of best movie, worst movie podcast. So around January is when we're going to get that thing kicked off again. That's right. But I remember Cody texting me, "John, have you watched episode?" I can't remember if it was episode 4 or whatever. Have you? For argument's sake, let's say it's episode 4. I can't remember. "John, have you watched episode 4 of Barry yet?" I'm like, "No." "Whenever you do, call me right away because I need to talk to you about that episode." And it was. Then I watched it. I'm like, "Oh my god!" Even though it was hyped up for me, I still bought into it. It was so good. Okay. Who's next here? Anonymous writes, "Hey John, I sent you a message the other day about the New York Police Department and Los Angeles Police Department confirming Die Hard was a Christmas movie along with the link. I didn't mean to offend or upset you. I thought you would think it was funny being another confirmed story." Why do people think whenever I say, "Oh, come on, they always say, "Oh no, why offend?" You didn't offend me. What did I say about that? I was just like, I said something like, "That's like Barry from the gas station up the street said this, therefore that confirms it." But it didn't bother me or offend me at all. Don't worry about it, dude. I appreciate the consideration that you'd want to write me that anyway, but no worries, man. It didn't offend me in the least. Don't worry about it, my friend. All right, next up, Suthius writes, "Hey guys, I was watching Endgame deleted scenes where the entire team gathers for a plan on what to do with the stones. Tony gets upset with Strange, but Quill breaks them up. He then proceeds to call Strange Dr. Weird. I could not stop laughing." Which, by the way, if you haven't yet watched all the deleted stuff, you really should. None of which should have been included in the movie. That's the funny thing. It's really fun stuff to watch, but all of it, they were completely justified in cutting out of the movie. None of the stuff needed to be in the movie. But I think if you have not seen all this stuff yet, and it's all available on Disney Plus, you should go and watch it because I think you'll get a big kick. I know you've watched it all, Rob. Do you have a particular favorite scene out of all the deleted stuff?
I think the Vormir, the battle scene, just because it was so surprising because that scene is such a big scene that involves so many visual effects and a lot of them were completed or nearly completed. I was like, wow. So it was very iterative. They went back and reshot things that would be better. I thought what they did especially with Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye in that scene was way better than that deleted scene. The deleted scene was way cool, but the movie version was far better.
All right. Next up comes to us from another anonymous one. Don't forget, guys, when you use tip feature, don't forget to write in your name, unless you don't want your name attached, which is fine. Hey, John and crew, what is it about the bleed? Oh, this again. What is it about bleeding of kyber crystals that bothers you? I, for one, was really curious about how we get red lightsabers, and though that's interesting, and thought that that's an interesting Sith trick, corrupting and pouring your hate into it makes sense. Oh no, it's utterly fucking ridiculous. This goes back to like an old Star Wars show episode that I did with some friends. I remember Tiffany Smith saying, I bet you, what did she say to me? She said, I bet you if Yoda was describing it, I'd say, no, I'd bitch slap that little green fool or something like that if he said that. To me, listen, one of the big problems, even with a lot of the new Star Wars stuff that I enjoy, one of the problems with Star Wars is feeling the need to explain things that doesn't need explanation, right? Like my big problem with midichlorians, besides the fact that it's one of the most ridiculous concepts in the history of anything, was the fact that really, you're trying to explain the mystery of the Force with, let's put it into scientific terms. No, I liked Yoda's definition of it. It's an energy field. Life creates it, surrounds us, it binds the universe together. That's what I need to know about the Force. I don't need to now know, well, if you take a blood sample, you can see how many midichlorians are in your blood. Fuck off. It's the Force. It ain't an STD.
I love that voice.
I mean, and essentially what I said at the time when they were doing that, and on top of all that, it makes kyber crystals mood rings. Remember mood rings?
Oh yeah, I had one.
That's what this whole bleeding the kyber. No, look. And by the way, did Samuel Jackson do something? Did he pour his spunk into his kyber crystal to give him the only purple lightsaber in the universe? It's just dumb. It didn't need to be there. And oh yeah, and listen. I don't want to pull a Chris car and yuck on anybody's yum. If you like it and it adds something to Star Wars for you, that's awesome. I'm not trying to take away any of that from you. If you enjoy that, that's great. But to me, it's just stupid. And I've never liked it at all. I just think it's a ridiculous thing. Anyway, Rob, do you got anything you want to add to that?
Well, I'm with you. I don't like when it's not that they just explain something, but then they create this ridiculous mythology about it. And you're supposed to go, no. I think you're right. Bleeding kyber crystals. Give me a break.
Yeah, I hated it personally. But hey, there are people who like it. Like,
although I do like the fact...
Christian likes it. So,
really?
Yeah.
I just like the fact Mace Windu is apparently a big Prince fan, and I'm happy about that.
All right, listen, we just got time for a couple more here with Rob before he's got to go. All right, All Might writes, if you need another reason to start watching My Hero Academia, which I'm getting a lot of people telling me I need to watch this show, man, including my wife. The creator is a huge Star Wars fan, and the show is littered with Star Wars references, i.e. Dagobah, Municipal Park Bench, Tatooine train station, and a city ward called Camino. That's really interesting. Rob, I thought you watched this show. Did you watch this show?
I have watched it, and I haven't watched all of it, but it's great.
See, I keep hearing that.
It's really good. And I need to get caught up because it was one of those things I started watching. I think I watched like 6 episodes of it, and I'm like, this is great. I just didn't get back to it.
Now, is it true? I've heard that they're actually very, very short episodes.
Yeah.
Like even less than a half hour?
Yes,
really?
I think they are. Yeah, I think they are less than a half hour because they are airing on television. I would imagine originally, so they would have commercial.
Oh, minus
time.
the commercial break time.
Yeah.
See, because my wife has been trying to get me to watch that for a long time because Anne loves
really
My Hero
good.
Academia. All right, I guess I'm going to have to get on board with this thing because I've got so many of you guys telling me about it. All right, the Dark Jedi Knight writes. Hey, John, Rob, and Aaron. Of course, Aaron's not here. Wonder Woman 1984 and Bond trailers look amazing. They do both look great. What are your top 5 2019 movies? I don't do top 5 lists, just so you know, dude. And top 5 2020 most anticipated. You can change mind later. Mine are Parasite, Irishman, Midsommar, Joker, Jojo, and Tenet, Dune, Bond. I don't know what NTTW is.
No Time to Die.
Oh, No Time to Die. Wonder Woman 84, Birds of Prey. HM. Don't know what that means. Well, I have gone on record before about what my top 5 of the year are so far, but I still have some I need to see. I still have not seen the damn Fred Rogers movie. I still haven't seen the Mr. Rogers movie.
Yeah, I'll be catching up with screeners and other things. So
I still have not watched Honey Boy or Peanut Butter Falcon. So these are ones I got to get caught up on. I've now watched Irishman, Marriage Story. Like I'm almost caught up. So I'm almost caught up, but there's still a number of things. As of right now, as I've said many times before, my top 5 of the year so far, and this could change. are number 1, Jojo Rabbit, number 2, Parasite, number 3, Knives Out, number 4, The Farewell, and number 5, Ford v Ferrari. That would be my top 5 right now. I can't give a list. I don't walk around with a top 5 list of my most anticipated 2020.
Yeah, I don't know.
But what would you say about this year, Rob?
Well, those are all good choices, but I also, one of my favorite movies of the year was the Apollo 11 documentary.
Oh, right,
because as a huge
right.
space fan, it was mind-blowing to see that. But in terms of next year, I'm with our viewer. No Time to Die, Dune, and Tenet are my 3 most eagerly awaited.
Yeah, but those are
But
3
I do
really
want to
big
see
ones.
Black Widow and the Eternals as well.
And Wonder Woman 84. All right, next up here we have Darth Hideous, who writes, I'll be the first to say it so no one else has to. Filoni is not ready for feature film, and I'm not sure he ever will be. Should he have some creative control over Star Wars films? You betcha, but keep the guy out of the director's chair till he can handle it. Hey, listen, I've been saying for a long time, as the throes of everybody's been saying, all these people who like Clone Wars, which I'm not that big of a fan of Clone Wars, myself personally. I don't hate it or dislike it actively. I can take or leave it. Everybody's saying, Dave Filoni! Why? He's never direct. How could you put a guy in charge of live action films that has never done a live action film? Never directed anything live action? How can you do that? It doesn't matter. He's Dave Filoni. And by the way, I like Dave Filoni very much. I've met Dave Filoni. I've spoken with Dave Filoni. He's great. He's great. I really like what he did with Rebels, all that kind of stuff. But he was trained personally by George Lucas, the guy who made the prequels. And then went on to make the Clone Wars movie, which is like the most horrid abomination of anything with the word Star Wars on it. I've never understood this underlying thing, but he gets Star Wars. According to who? Look, I love Filoni a lot, and I've always said, before you start talking about giving him his own movies to direct and all this kind of stuff, let him direct something else first. Let him direct something smaller scale, cut his teeth, and let's let him learn some stuff, and then let's talk about it a little further down the line. And I thought that having him direct a couple of episodes of The Mandalorian was a great idea. Actually, the perfect idea. The first episode I think he did a decent job. We talked at length about it. I thought you could see some obvious mistakes that somebody who's just coming from animation would make. But overall, I actually thought he did a pretty good job with the first episode. I hated this most recent episode, which is also the first episode that Jon Favreau did not direct, or did not write, I should say. Filoni wrote and directed this one, and I'm like, it's a bad episode. So clearly, Filoni is not ready to be the head of anything at this point. But just because somebody isn't at a point now doesn't mean they won't be at that point 4 years from now,
right,
or 5 years from now. He very well could be the guy. They might be grooming him for all I know. But is he ready to direct a feature film, a live action feature film right now? Not from what I've seen. Not yet. He can get there, but keep giving him opportunities to do a little. You know what, by the way? Let Dave Filoni work with Disney and let Dave Filoni direct a smaller film that has nothing to do with Star Wars, like $1 Million Arm or some other smaller a Disney-based project. Let him actually direct a story, a live-action story that's not Star Wars, so he can learn some lessons and bring those over back into Star Wars. I just think there's still a ways to go with Dave Filoni right now, but I'm excited to see where he goes. He's got a lot of potential. I don't know. What do you think about all that?
I completely agree. I think that those episodes were, they're like first-time director episodes. And in addition to that, he's not just a first-time director. He's a first-time director trying to utilize this new technology, this stagecraft technology they're using, and that's doubly hard. So, yeah.
Doubly hard.
Doubly hard.
Hard doubled. All right.
Doubly hard.
Last question we'll take today before Rob's got to go. And this one comes to us from Stubble McShaver writes, Rene Auberjonois, who was Odo on Deep Space Nine, passed away. He was one of the best. He could emote complex feelings through a thick layer of makeup. He and Armin Shimmerman were great together. They had incredible long work days for 7 years due to expensive makeup. And their dynamic was one of the big reasons, I think, that show worked so much. Like the adversarial frenemies kind of relationship between Odo and Quark was one of the true charming elements of that series. And Rob, your thoughts?
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, and that antagonistic relationship they carried that through the whole series beautifully. And, the grudging respect as well. That was one of the things, those antagonistic relationships like Dr. Bashir and Garrick on the show. But Quark and Odo really was the heart, that push and pull. It was great.
Yeah, it was something to enjoy for sure.
And as Stubble points out, the makeup. I mean, to get those characters, it's not like Quark and Odo's makeup was realistic. I mean, it was out there.
And it wasn't just makeup; it was the prosthetics and all. I mean, oh my God,
The
those
teeth.
years and how many hours?
Oh God,
they must have spent in those makeup chairs to do all that.
Hours
Anyway,
every day.
Guys, that will do it for Robert Meyer Burnett here today. He's got to run, but Robert, you'll be back again tomorrow.
I will.
And by the way, for those of you guys who are watching, next Tuesday, we are having the John Campea 100 million view event that we're going to be having. And just so you guys know, it is sold out, which I am shocked by, but we sold out in about 4 days from putting those things up. So, but hey, if you're interested in going, you can check out the link because, sometimes people back out because they double book or whatever and see if any tickets become available. But as of right now, it is sold out. But Robert is going to be at that event with me as well. Aaron Cummings is, of course, going to be there. You're going to see a lot of the crew there, and we're going to have time. We're going to tell some stories. We're going to have time to take some Q&A, take some pictures, meet people, things like that. So make sure you join. If for those of you who are already signed up in there, make sure you guys come and join. And we're not going to stream the event, but I think we are going to try to record it. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to try to record it and we'll put it up online afterwards. But try to be there if you can get one of those tickets in case somebody backs up. But as of right now, the event is sold out. But Rob, we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. But in the meantime, dude, where can people find you in your online adventures?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett. Or you can find my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations, again on YouTube.
Oh, and by the way, why don't we take this opportunity to let everybody know this? We announced last week that Weekly Hero, we are no longer going to be doing Weekly Hero as a YouTube show. However, you are still going to get your Weekly Hero fix. Robert and I have decided to do Weekly Hero as a podcast. And so a little bit later today, we're going to put up our first preview podcast for the new podcast version of it. I will make sure you guys have links to where you can subscribe to the podcast as well. And then our first full podcast of Weekly Hero will be on Wednesday. So you guys can just keep your eyes open for that. That'll be in Robert. And Robert, we will see you again tomorrow, my friend.
You will. I will see you then.
All right, guys, with that down, we still have a bunch of time here. So let's keep on going and taking more of your guys' questions. And we're going to get things started here with Dimsum05, who writes, my excitement for Wonder Woman 84 was very lukewarm, but holy smokes, that trailer was straight fire. From the banging 1980s tunes to the great action to Pedro Pascal in the breakneck action to Ride the Lightning, I am spent. I'll tell you what, dude, again, I'm down. Now, look, I wasn't lukewarm because it's Patty Jenkins directing it. If Patty Jenkins directing it, I'm on board. And I thought the first film was really good. So I've been excited for this film. I've had a good amount of enthusiasm for it, but this trailer, boom, 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 knocked it up several notches, man. I agree with all of the things, the references, the music. It just made you feel like you were in the 80s at the same time. It was an exciting, fun trailer. Now, they still have some work to do with upcoming trailers. You need to start telling us a little bit about what is the story, what's the idea, what's the narrative of this one a little bit about. Give us a glimpse of, Cheetah, and we'll see where things go. Not too much, but a little bit. But remember, this movie is still a ways off. So, but as a first trailer, dude, I am with you. I thought it was great. All right, Dimsum05 also writes, saw Dark Water Saturday night. Good eye-opening movie. Felt like a poor man's Spotlight. Felt longer than it needed to be, but not sure if me drinking a large Dr. Pepper and large water prior to the showtime had anything to do with it. Entertaining nonetheless. And by the way, Dimsum, I'm glad you brought up Spotlight. That, despite winning Best Picture at the Academy Awards, that is a movie that still does not get the attention it deserves. That movie with Michael Keaton, who's fabulous in it, and Mark Ruffalo, by the way, fabulous movie. If you guys have not seen Spotlight, you need to see it. I have not yet seen Dark Water. Ann and I got plans to go see it. but I'm going to get around to that one here pretty soon. But yeah, it's funny. The movie seems longer the more that you drink. It does seem like time is moving a little bit slower, doesn't it? All right, Dimsum05 also writes, remember when Super Chat had jumps? Yeah, that was always fun. Pepperidge Farm remembers. Also, rules for the John Campea Show. No fan casting, no speculation, no top lists, no what if questions, but also no hate, all love. Well, I remember, like, fan casting is great. Like, I don't mind fan casting ideas as long as you don't expect me to give, like, as long as you understand that I'm going to evaluate myself fan casting on is that person a good actor? And if that person is a good actor, then I'm all for it. Otherwise, I don't know what the script calls for this character to be, so I can't decide if that person, if that actor is a good fit for that or not. And what if questions are great and fine as long as you end the question with an actual question. Don't just say, John, what if that shirt is brown? Well, then the shirt is brown. That's the answer. But if you say, John, what if that shirt was brown? Do you think that gives it the, do you think that that increases the appeal of the shirt? Okay, well, now there's a question. So yes, what if questions are fine if you actually end your what if statement with a question. So there's that. But anyway, thank you for the update, Dim Sum. All right, let's see. All Might writes, the other day I sent in a comment about moments in My Hero Academia and the Rohan shall answer moment. I meant that moments in that show give me personally the excitement and same feeling that you get from the Rohan moment. Oh, I totally understood what you said, All Might. And I said, those are big words. Those are big words. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong because I haven't seen it myself. I'm just saying you have just set a very, very high standard. Because the and Rohan shall answer moment is one of the most chest-banging, thrill-inducing, hair standing up on your arms moments, I think, in cinematic history. So to say that this show gives you that type of a feeling, I'm just saying you're setting the bar real high because that's a big, big standard to me. And again, I'm not disagreeing with you because I haven't seen it myself. I'm just saying you just set the table real high, my friend. You just set that bar very, very high. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm having so many of you guys now tell me about it that I'm just probably going to have to bite down on it and go and watch it. Damien91486 writes, hey, John, you're right. There is apples in the bag, but I suspect some foul play. Benoit Blanc voice. There's an investigation to be done here, my friend. There are apples in the bag, but I see no watermelon in Blanc's voice. By the way, I really do want to see more murder mysteries from Knives Out. I want to see more murder mysteries with Daniel Craig's character as the great detective. I want to see more. I'm dying to see more. I love this movie. My third favorite movie of the year. There you go. All right, Murray Reich writes, that 49er Saint game was awesome. So intense. More, please. Dude, I'll tell you what. There have been a couple of games this year that have been absolute barn burners. Like absolute barn burners. Like I thought that Seahawks game, I thought it was Seahawks and 49ers. Man, I thought that game couldn't be topped this year. And this one, you've got the old man. You got the old man at quarterback for the Saints. And what does he do? Just rips 5 touchdown passes and runs for a touchdown himself. He's still one of the best in the league. I'll tell you what, for a long time, this has been a league of 3 quarterbacks, all right? Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Bledsoe. It's been their league. As of right now, Drew Brees has always been the third guy in the conversation. This year, he's above Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers now. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, don't get me wrong, are both still great, and I'll take either of them when it counts. But they both of them are losing steps. They're losing a step. Both of them clearly are at this point. But Drew Brees, he's still flinging 5 touchdown passes. I mean, he's still the man, you know? So it's amazing. I love Drew Brees and love seeing what that guy's doing. Yeah, what a game that was. Anyway, Porkins writes, over under 20%, Mandalorian and Baby Yoda hook up, make out by... Dude, that's just a disgusting question. So, I mean, you do raise a point at the end there. Baby Yoda is 50. Yeah, but still a baby. That's just disgusting. Faye Haberfeld writes, hey, John. So I watched the Wonder Woman 1984 trailer, and it seems ridiculous that Steve Trevor is back after sacrificing himself. Unless Wonder Woman is schizophrenic or hallucinating, I attribute his fake death like any other to lazy writing. Thoughts? No. Look, you know me, Faye. I don't like the fake deaths. There are times it works and times that it's appropriate to use them, but you don't want to over abuse them like the Marvel universe does. I love the MCU, but my one little gripe with the MCU has always been, man, they go to fake deaths so often. Like they even had to bring back half the galaxy. They had a fake death 85 trillion people. I mean, so there you go. But let's face it. You need Chris Pine in this movie. And you need the Steve Trevor character in this movie. You can't start making judgments about it being lazy writing until we see it. Like, for instance, me, I'm not big on time travel and stuff like that in movies and TV shows, but I can say I don't like that they're doing that, but it might be great because there are examples of it being used where it's great. So it might be great. I don't like it in principle, but let's see. I'm not going to declare having Steve Trevor lazy writing when, for all we know, this could be the greatest script ever. This could be a creative, innovative, imaginative script. We just don't know. Again, if it's up to me, I don't do the fake death thing myself, but if you're going to do the fake death thing, it is almost, I'll go so far as to say it is a necessity to have Chris Pine back. He's the guy carrying the acting load. And he's great. Now, you got a really good ensemble with this new movie surrounding Gal Gadot, who, by the way, is getting better and better. Gal Gadot is getting better and better. I still don't think she's a great thespian per se, but I think she's getting better and better. And you surround her with a strong cast. You know, an iconic thing like Wonder Woman, it can work, but I really thought it was needed to bring her back. So let's not cast any, comments like, oh, this is lazy writing when you haven't read, and I haven't read one word of the script yet. For all we know, it's the most ingenious, creative, thought-provoking script of any comic book movie ever. We just don't know yet. Again, I'm not a big fan of the fake deaths, but let's see what if by the way, and if it works completely into the narrative, let's see how it turns out. But for right now, I'm not going to make any big pronouncements on it just yet. Let's wait and see. I don't like the idea, but I'm not going to pass any judgments on it until I see it. So we'll go from there. All right. Johnny 5619 writes, all of the Elm Street movies are Christmas movies because he's wearing a Christmas color sweater. LOL. No, but still, come on. Die Hard is so Christmas. Even part 2 is Christmas. Nope. And that's fine. Y'all can believe what you want to believe. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It is simply not a Christmas movie. It happens at Christmas time, but it's not a Christmas movie. The spirit of Christmas is not a narrative imperative to the story of Die Hard. But that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people agree with me. I know a lot of people disagree with me, and it's all good. We can still be friends either way. All right. Alvin Elmore writes, I hated The Last Jedi, but love Knives Out. Rian Johnson is an awesome director, but his pathos style humor doesn't work in Star Wars. Spaceballs is the only other Star Wars movie that used pathos, LOL, and at times Last Jedi felt like a parody of Star Wars. I disagree. I thought the humor stuff in Last Jedi actually worked. Look, you guys know there are a number of things in Last Jedi that I do not think worked. But there's also a lot that did. And I admire the creative direction that Rian Johnson wanted to do and the way he wanted to take it. And everybody was crying and screaming that do something different. Well, he did something different. And not everybody liked it. Fair enough. Movies are movies. We don't all love the same thing. And there are a bunch of people that don't like The Last Jedi, and for those reasons you mentioned and for others. But personally, I thought it did work there to a degree. I thought it worked in there to a degree. What's interesting right now, Alvin, is seeing what is JJ going to do as a follow-up to what happened in Last Jedi. That's the interesting thing. And we are 1 week away from finding out. Actually, yes, I see The Last Jedi in 1 week from today. 1 week from today, I see The Last Jedi. So fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. But yeah, man, Knives Out was unbelievably good. Anon Y. Moose writes, if Rise of Skywalker is good, could this be the best 3-product streak of Star Wars content we have had? That streak being Fallen Order, Mandalorian, and then hopefully Rise of Skywalker. No. No, it's New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi. None of this crap comes anywhere near that. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I like Fallen Order very much. I like Mandalorian very much. And I hopefully I'll like Rise of Skywalker very much. But none of that. That's all crap compared to the original trilogy. Come on. So no, absolutely not. No way, no shape, no how. Angela Dashner writes in a really large super chat. Thank you, Angela, for supporting the channel on that level. And Angela writes in, watch the original Murder on the Orient Express. Great suggestion. Thank you. I did a video the other day in response. It might have been to Angela's question asking about some classic murder mystery movies. And I suggested not the new one, not the Kenneth Branagh version, but rather the original version of Murder on the Orient Express. Where do you go? Thanks for the suggestion. Really loved the first Wonder Woman, but wasn't sure how Chris Pine would work. When did you and Rob think? What did you and Rob think of the Wonder Woman trailer? Made me look more forward to the movie. Again, we talked about it a little bit earlier, Angela. I love it. I don't think it's quite as good as, like, say, the James Bond No Time to Die trailer, which is one of the best trailers I've seen all year. But I thought it was a very good trailer. Again, the job of a trailer. Pop up your needle, raise the needle. Wherever you are, totally don't care about it, super excited about it. Wherever you are on the excitement level for a movie, if a trailer bumps up your excitement level a few notches, then it's done its job. I was already looking forward to this movie. This trailer bumped it up a few notches. More than a few notches. I tremendously enjoyed this trailer. For a first trailer. Now, granted, it's a first trailer. It was missing some things, but those are things that are missing. I can totally wait for those to come out in a second and third trailer. For a first trailer, I thought it was dynamic. I really do. I really, really enjoyed it. All right. Thanks for that, Angela. And I'm glad you went back and watched the original Murder on the Orient Express. It is really great, isn't it? Thanks again. All right. Noel writes, I know best movie, worst movie has been put on hold, but it's inspired to make my own podcast. Question: what podcast hosting service do you use? Any tips, issues you can give me with remote interviews? Well, that's something for another video altogether. I will say, what is the name of my podcasting service? Oh God, you know what? Off the top of my head, what is the name of my podcasting service that I use? I can't remember. Wait a second. Hold a second. Look, I'm just going to Google right now a list of podcasting services. Let's see. To see if I can see the list, so I can see the name of mine that I use. I mean, a very, very popular one right now. I don't use it myself, but the most popular one right now is Buzzsprout. That's really popular. I cannot remember the name of the one that I use. How embarrassing is that? I cannot remember the name of the one that I use. Sorry about that. Spreaker. That's Spreaker. That's the name of the one I use. It's Spreaker. Spreaker. That's the name of it. I knew it started with an S. Anyway, how embarrassing. And as I said, best movie, worst movie comes back in January. So we set that in stone yesterday. But that's the name of the podcasting service that I use. As far as remote interviews, you can just use Skype or anything like that, and that stuff works fine. But anyway, I hope that's helpful. But again, Buzzsprout right now seems to be the most popular one. A lot of people really like that one, so that might be one you want to look into as well. All right, Anonymous writes, such a beautiful day to hear that both John and Rob's teams lost miserably yesterday. Yes, so Seahawks got thumped by the LA Rams last night. I mean, it was the score doesn't reflect how one-sided that game was. And then my Patriots. Now, here's the thing about the Patriots loss. I expected them to lose to the Chiefs. I said that before the game. But you remember I said at the beginning of the year, the New England Patriots are not going to the Super Bowl this year. They're just not. They just don't have the weapons that they've had in previous years. They're not going to the Super Bowl. I'll be honest, if you had told me at the beginning of this year that the Patriots would be 10-3 at this point, being as depleted as they are, I would have said, hell yeah, I'll take that. And their third loss, their two of their losses One was to the Baltimore Ravens, that I think is the best team in the league right now. And their third loss would be to the Kansas City Chiefs. I would say, yeah, I expect those losses. I'd take it. Again, the Patriots are not going to the Super Bowl this year. They're just not the same team they were in years past. They're still very good. They're still the Patriots. It's still Bill Belichick, still Tom Brady, but they just don't have the weapons. And and they both lost. But I'll tell you what, I was encouraged that they only lost by a touchdown to the Chiefs. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, man, the Seahawks got thumped. But they'll be fine. Seahawks will be fine. I still think they have a chance of going to the Super Bowl. I really do. All right, let's see here. The Mandalorian of Gondor writes, 2020 is looking like a good year for female lead films. Which one are you looking forward to the most? Black Widow, Wonder Woman 84, Mulan, Birds of Prey, and Quiet Place 2 are my top ones. You know, I should really say Quiet Place 2. But as of right now, it's actually Mulan. That last trailer came out. Again, it just looks like this big, grand, sweeping epic of a movie that really has my attention right now. Now, because of the latest trailer, I'm looking forward to Black Widow. I wasn't for a long time, but I am now. You know, I'm very much looking forward to Wonder Woman 84. Not so excited about Birds of Prey. And I'm obviously, Quiet Place was the best movie of the year to me. So I'm looking forward to that. But right now, Mulan's got my attention. Mulan's really got my attention right now, but let's see as more marketing comes out for these other films. All right, Michael French writes, do you think that Cheetah will be a costume or half human, half cheetah like she is in the comics? Michael, that's a misnomer. When you say like she is in the comics, my question would be, well, which comics? Because actually, there are several versions of Cheetah in the comics that she is just a woman in a costume. Then there are other versions of cheetahs, like some of the modern ones where she's got superpowers and all that kind of stuff, the cheetah and all that kind of, but actually the origins of the cheetah character is like, I think that the character's name was Patricia, and then I think the second one was Deborah. I can't remember exactly, but the earlier incarnations of Cheetah was that she was just a woman in costume. So your question isn't, will they do her half human like Cheetah, like she is in the comics? You mean like she is in some of the comics? Or will she be just a woman in costume like she is in other versions of the comics? Because Cheetah has been done different ways. Straight up woman in a cheetah costume, straight up she kind of looks like a cheetah. So there's different ways. I think they're going to go the way that she adopts or gets some cat powers. I think she's going, because look, let's face it, with a Wonder Woman character, you can't have just a woman in a cat costume fighting her. There's no contest. There's no story there. So they're going to have to go the super powered route. And I do think they're going to change her Dean. I think she's going to look different. I think everything we've seen of Kristen Wiig so far is before she makes her transformation, but I think there's going to be I don't know this, I'm speculating, but I think there's going to be a transformation. All right, Michael French also writes, would you rather see Idris Elba or Henry Cavill as James Bond? Hey, listen, they're both great actors, so I'd be thrilled with both of them, but I've been saying for a long time, I think Henry Cavill is a great fit for Bond. He was the runner-up to play Bond when they gave the Bond role to Daniel Craig. There's something appropriate about it being passed on to him. So I'd be happy with either of them. I would lean towards Henry Cavill, though. Casinema Reviews writes, Holy crimson skies of death is also what the citizens of that solar system that was destroyed in The Force Awakens, Hosnian Prime is the name of the system, said as the beams came down on the holy crimson skies of death. I thought, really? That's what you brought Burt Ward back for? Was just to say that one line? Whatever. I thought it was, it was fan service. But that's what this whole thing is fan service. But yeah. All right. Jay Master writes, who sends in a really large super chat. Thank you so much, Jay, for supporting the channel on that level. The Free Guy trailer was epic, and how it begun saying, from the studios that brought you Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King. But no, that's not the funny part. The funny part was, from the studio that brought you Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, twice, because it did all those films twice. Anyway, Guy, he's just resting. Pieces and pieces and then he's dead. He's so sleepy. I thought the trailer was great. I really do. Again, totally just a mix of let's just take Wreck-It Ralph and Lego Movie and put them together. But that's not a bad thing because I think the end result is pretty damn good. So and you know me, I'm up for anything with Ryan Reynolds, good Canadian kid. I'm up for anything with that dude in it. Canada Rocks writes, The Blue Monday remix in the Wonder Woman 1984 trailer is fantastic and totally fits the 80s theme. It absolutely does. Brings me back to when I saw New Order perform at McMaster University in the 80s. McMaster University is one of the greatest universities in the world. It's also, by the way, the university in my hometown of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I've taken some stuff there. Also, Martin Short, the great Martin Short, went to McMaster University. A lot of people went to McMaster University. Great city. I didn't even know New Order performed at Mac. I had no idea New Order ever performed there in the 80s or otherwise. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, man. Okay, Chris Shobris writes, "Hey, John, which director had the best year overall between these? Steven Spielberg, 1983, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Francis Ford Coppola, 74, The Godfather Part 2, and The Conversation, or Victor Fleming, 1939, The Wizard of Oz, and Gone with the Wind?" I think you got to go Victor Fleming on that. I mean, Godfather Part 2, some people would argue, is the greatest film of all time, but you're talking about, I mean, two of the most enduring classics. Now, Schindler's List and Jurassic Park, I mean, that's up there too. I'm going to lean towards Victor Fleming. Second place, Steven Spielberg. Third, Francis Ford Coppola, but it's all razor sharp. That's a really interesting question, Chris. I like it. Well done. All right. Kevin Lewis writes, "I saw a cloud in the shape of a Chevy logo in Ford v Ferrari in a scene after the Le Mans race. Asking the John Campea Show fans if they saw it too. Graphics team prank?" Okay, first of all, I never noticed it. But could it be that it was just a cloud? I don't know. Now, maybe I'll go back and watch it again. And if you tell me exactly where it is, I'll look at it and go, oh, yeah, no, that is clearly on purpose. But without knowing the specific shot you're talking about, my guess would be that it's coincidental. That's my guess. But again, I haven't seen it. So if you could send me, when you have the opportunity, email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com and let me know. Let me know where exactly, because maybe when I see it, I'll go, oh, yeah, there's no mistaking. That is clearly a Chevy logo. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but thanks for that. That's some good trivia right there. Koba writes, "UK doesn't even get Crisis in full. No broadcaster for Batwoman." Yeah. Is Batwoman one of the Crisis... Are they using Batwoman to be one of the Crisis episodes? And if so, I've been wondering about that, because since they don't have Batwoman in the UK, how is that being handled? They can't just not show an episode of Crisis in the UK, right? I mean, they can't just do that. There's got to be a way for them to show the next Crisis. Maybe they show it in place of the next episode of one of the other shows? I'm not sure. But honestly, Koba, ever since the first person brought that up to me, it's been like, oh, how are they going to handle that? Because you can't justify showing Crisis there and not showing all of Crisis. So how are they going to handle that? Once you guys know, please send me an email and let me know how they're going to do that. Because Koba, that is one of the big questions I have right now. Thankfully, they're not doing that here, but it is like, how are they going to do that? Let me know once you guys do. All right. Kevin Lewis writes, "Over under 40%. Robert Meyer Burnett has a DVD or Blu-ray of Fantastic Voyage 66. Oh, I guarantee he has that. There's no way he doesn't have that. I absolutely guarantee he does." James Rell, 22, writes, "Here's to you, Carol Spinney. Thank you for 50 years of Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch. Thank you for being a part of me. For those of you who did not see, one of the iconic puppeteers of Oscar the Grouch and others on Sesame Street also passed away. And very good of you, James Rell, to bring that up. Obviously, our schedule is really packed today. I didn't even know if anybody would know who he was, but good on you for bringing that up and mentioning him. So that is another big loss. On a heavy day. All right. Kevin Lewis writes, "Over under 40%. Robert Meyer Burnett has The Magic Christian from 1969. I'm going to go under. I've never even heard of that, so I'm going to guess that maybe he doesn't have that one. David Tapia writes, "Silver lining to Aladdin's Prince Anders spinoff. Mina Massoud might finally have a good chance at an audition. Heck, maybe he can book a guest spot on the show everyone has been clamoring for ever since the movie came out." Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't understand for the life of me how this show is getting made. I honestly don't know. Except for, this is a pretty magical world. This world of Agrabah, this is a pretty magical world they introduced us to. So it does give storytellers even without Aladdin or the genie or Jasmine or anybody, it gives us a playground that some really creative writers could tell some pretty fun stories. So we'll see. Listen, I can't poo-poo on it too much because I was the guys who went, you're going to do a Flash spinoff? Really? And now I love Flash. I love that show. And I was very against it at first. So, you know what? All I can say is they've got a great playground to let the imagination of some creative writers maybe do some special things. So let's see where that goes. All right, Marie Seifring writes, farewell and rest in peace, Rene Auberjonois from Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Benson. Oh, Benson, we mentioned that one. Boston Legal, I loved him on. He was just a dude that he always brought a level of quality to everything that he was in. And again, it's sad that I was just watching him again, like I said, in Madam Secretary, and he had a recurring character on there, and he's just a special guy and one of the most unmistakable voices. A very regal voice in Hollywood working today, and it is a big loss. Thank you for mentioning that, Marie. All right. Abdul Rahman Nasser writes in, hey, John, I've been watching your shows since the AMC days. Thank you so much for that. My question is, could we see a live-action 1980s cartoon like Bionic 6 or The Centurions? They were my favorite. Okay, so first off, thank you for watching since the AMC days. Secondly, whenever we ask any question that has the words could or ever in it, the answer is almost always yes. Could we see a live action version of Bionic 6 or the Centurions? Sure, we could. They're all properties that have rights owners and they could develop into a movie. The things working against it are not many people even in the day watched either of those. So there's not a big nostalgia factor to them. So it's not like, say, Transformers or G.I. Joe or something like that, where the property already has a huge built-in audience and you could play on that nostalgia factor to guarantee X number of people will come out to the theaters to see it. So you're going to be working against that. So I think these are some pretty lesser known things. So could, yes. Likely, I'll say no. But hey, there have been a lot of unlikely things that happen in Hollywood. So you never know, man. You never know. It just could happen. All right. Thanks for sending that in, my friend. All right. Harry Mudd writes, watched Marriage Story this weekend and it was gut-wrenchingly good. That's a good way to put it. It is gut-wrenchingly good. Many times I just had a hard lump in my throat, especially the scenes where the rawest emotions were shown, particularly that one scene where the fight, the argument in his place. That was it is so uncomfortably real. And it's going to get, now I don't think it's in my top 10 best movies of the year list, although it might sneak into my top 10. It is certainly not in my top 5. But I've been comparing Marriage Story to Lighthouse, a very good movie that is really propelled by insanely good performances. And by insanely good performances, I don't just mean Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. Laura Dern, Alan Alda, Ray Liotta, the entire surrounding cast were all gangbusters good. It is really a movie that is elevated by the performances in it. And if you haven't seen it, you absolutely should, because I love the way you put that, Harry. Gut-wrenchingly good is a very good way of putting that. All right, Harry also writes, and I loved it that despite that both Charlie and Nicole managed to accept and embrace a new situation instead of trying to salvage a dead marriage. Well, now we're getting into spoilers, Harry. So I have to mention Azzy Robertson, who portrayed Henry. What an incredible performance for such a young actor. He really made you feel for Henry, making him a character just as important to the tale as Charlie and Nicole. Yes, I thought he was good. Because if he wasn't good, this whole thing doesn't work. It's not the best child performance I've ever seen, but it was solid. Pardon me, my voice is starting to go. But it was solid. So you're right. Kudos to him as well. All right. Ali Hussein writes, Wonder Woman 84 trailer was amazing. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the Batman vs. Superman, Diana was saying she has never saved the world before. Are they retconning in Justice League and Batman vs. Superman? Did she say she's never saved the world before? Was that an actual piece of dialogue? Or is she just saying like she withdrew from the world of man? I can't remember exactly. I don't know. Listen, I don't want to make any assumptions because we haven't seen the movie yet. So I can't proclaim that they're doing any retconning here at this point. I mean, there was that shot where she's taking out the video cameras because she doesn't want to be in the public eye at that point. But, I mean, she did make it sound like in Batman vs. Superman that after the World War I stuff, she just withdrew from the world of men and didn't get involved. Clearly, she gets involved in 1984, but we don't know the nature of it yet because there are ways probably creatively for them to carry that out where it's still consistent with what they said in Batman vs. Superman, or maybe it gets retconned. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Or maybe we just misinterpret or they change the interpretation of what she actually said in Batman vs. Superman or whatever. We'll see. Interesting question though, Ali, because I think a lot of people are wondering that and have been wondering that. Harry writes, we lost Rene Auberjonois yesterday to cancer. He was 79. Farewell, Ordo. Yeah, and we've been talking about that today, and it's a terrible, terrible loss. Myth Dustards writes, so sad about Rene passing, known for roles in Odo, Chief Louis in Chief Louis in Little Mermaid, Priest Oliver in The Patriot, Star Trek 6 as Colonel West. I didn't see that one. Rob was talking about that one. Again, it's such a he had a great screen presence. And again, Boston Legal. He was so good in Boston Legal, acting with William Shatner. Again, Shatner and him had the Boston Legal, and they had Star Trek in common. But it's that voice, man. That voice was so iconic as soon as he would start talking. Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing a good voice of his, but he had that bit of growl to his voice, that was so unique and identifiable when he would speak. It's such a loss. All right. Firebird85 writes, Black Widow looks serious, badass. Wonder Woman 84 looks stupid, cringe. I mean, hey, to each their own opinion. I disagree. I thought the Wonder Woman trailer was actually better than the Black Widow trailer, but I like the Black Widow trailer. I like that one too. I was very impressed by it. I thought the Wonder Woman one was even better. That's just my personal opinion. All right, Cameron W. writes, Carano acted circles around Wen and the Toro twerp. If you're talking about the people in the Ming-Na Wen and whatever, I don't know that she acted circles around Ming-Na Wen. The problem is Ming-Na Wen really only had one scene where she gave dialogue, and she's always great. Carano gave the best performance I've ever seen Gina Carano give in Mandalorian episode 4. I mean, it was the best performance I've ever seen her give. She's clearly been working very hard on being an actress. But I would not say at all in any way, shape, or form that's just my opinion. She did not act circles around Ming-Na Wen, but she did the best I've ever seen her do. And that much is true. Ryan Lohner writes, I've long thought Togo deserved a movie, and his story is so naturally cinematic with several death-defying stunts. His lack of recognition at the time was a disgrace, and hopefully this can help direct it. If you're talking about the movie Togo, are we talking about that? If we are, I remember they showed us a preview of Togo at D23, and it didn't catch me. I'll be honest with you, Ryan. It didn't. Now, that doesn't mean the movie won't be fantastic. That doesn't mean it won't be the most spectacular thing ever. But what they had showed us didn't really get my attention. Despite the fact that Willem Dafoe is there, which should always get our attention because it's Willem Dafoe. But I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see. I'm still kind of on the I'll admit, right now I'm still kind of on the fence about it. But hopefully your enthusiasm and the enthusiasm of other people will get me warmed up to it. All right, James Argento writes, over under 20%, Smallville's Green Arrow appears in Crisis. I'll go way under. He's way too busy these days with This Is Us, being one of the biggest stars in the world. So I will go well under 20% that he shows up here. Patty and Greasy Irmas Rodriguez writes, hi, John and crew. Love you all. What did you think about the Brazilian Comic-Con highlights? Would love you guys to visit one day. Do you think one day another con can replace San Diego Comic-Con? Will one day? Oh, the answer is always yes. One day, yes. Not yet, but one day something will replace San Diego Comic-Con. That's inevitable. But whether that'll be 5 years from now or 15 years from now, we don't know. I thought the highlights were interesting. I thought they were interesting. Nothing too ground shaking, but I do want to go next year. I definitely want to go next year. All right, Porg-based Diet, I like that name, writes, the prequels gave us Darth Maul and the original saga gave us Boba Fett. Do you see any iconic minor character yet in the third trilogy that we could be still talking about in 10 years. We really have no one so far. Hashtag Knights of Ren. No, not really. I don't think that either of those is a big major. Look, Darth Maul was a very minor character in the prequels. He was there and boof, he died, which is unfortunate that they did it that way. And Boba Fett is iconically a character that didn't do anything. He literally didn't do anything in the movies and never spoke. A couple of lines. And yet they became like cult favorites. I cannot see any character, little side characters in either of the first two of the new movies doing that. But then again, they probably didn't think Maul or Boba Fett would be that either. So time will tell, but right now, pork-based diet, which is again a great name, I don't see one yet. Maybe one of the Knights of Ren becomes that. Maybe the what's the Felicity actress name again? She's in this. Why am I freezing her? Kerry Russell. Maybe Kerry Russell becomes that. Who knows? That's possible, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, Blake writes, admittedly, I haven't kept up with the CW shows, but I watched Crisis, and coming back, it felt like a cross between a fan film and something on Sci-Fi at 2 a.m. So bad. And I agree with WB. They have no idea what to do with Superman. Yeah, again, I'm not going to go into the whole thing about Superman again. They did it. They just did what they always do, so I'm not going to get all upset about it again. It is what it is, and you guys know how I feel about that. But my biggest thing was, I get that all the other Arrowverse crossovers over the years have been kind of like side stories. Kind of inconsequential side stories. But you've been marketing and promoting this Crisis on Infinite Earths like it's supposed to be a big culmination event, like in Unto Infinity War and whatever. And it just doesn't feel special. It feels like a side episode. It really does feel like a little side story without much oomph or weight to it. But who knows? That was just one episode. Let's see how the other ones go. I mean, maybe the other ones pick it up a bit, but while I did not actively dislike this episode, I was disappointed. So here's hoping they pick up the pace, Blake. I certainly hope so for you and me both. All right. The James, or was that Blake's question? Yes. The James Eversole Jr. Movie Podcast writes, hey, Rob and John, what is your most disturbing scene in a movie? Mine is the execution scene in the cave in the movie Bone Tomahawk. Yeah, but listen, for like 2 years, all you'd have to say is Bone Tomahawk scene, and everybody goes, ah! If you've seen it, you know what we're talking about. We've talked about that for a long time. I don't know. That's not information I carry on off the top of my head, James, but I will say this. It is weird how sometimes it's a little thing. Like watching somebody have a car smashed into their face. That won't give us as much of a jerky reaction as seeing somebody get their baby finger bent backwards. You know what I mean? Like we can see somebody throw a car and smash somebody's head into the concrete and go, oh, right? But that's nothing compared to a scene where some bad guy grabs somebody's finger, and imagine that, somebody grabbing their baby finger and snapping their baby finger backwards. Oh my God, I would crawl out of my skin at that. I would have way more of a reaction to that than a guy having a truck dropped on his head, right? The most disturbing scene to me in the last couple of years, I'm not ready to say this all time because I haven't sat down to think about it. But over the last couple of years, one of the worst is such a simple little scene. It's A Quiet Place. When Emily Blunt is just walking down the stairs and there's a rusty nail sticking up out of one of the stairs and she steps on a nail. We have monsters in this movie ripping people's flesh from their bodies, but the thing that disturbed me the most and got the biggest oh my God reaction was walking down the stairs and stepping on a nail. That gave me my biggest reaction by far. Anyway, that's an interesting question. If I thought about more, maybe I'd come up with some other ones, but that's one that stands out to me. Ant Banks 1984 writes, saw the Ghostbusters 3 trailer. I liked it. And again, it's a first trailer for a movie that's not coming out for a while still. It was just announcing to the world, hey, a Ghostbusters movie is coming. but I dug it. Not quite as much as Rob dug it. Rob really loved it, but I dug it. All right, Ben Rayner writes, I don't know if I'm in the minority or majority, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. Ate up every second, and that ending got me. Didn't think they would do that so fast. I applaud them for being ballsy. Unfortunately, Ben, I have no idea what we're talking about. I just have no idea what that ending got me. Sorry, dude. You got to mention what it is we're talking about so I can agree or disagree with you. I'm sorry about that. But hey, whatever it is, you love the hell out of it, and I'm glad that you did. Whatever it was, I'm glad that you did, my friend. All right, Jesse writes, John, like you, I'm not an anime guy, but I have to say One Punch Man is one of my favorite things right now. The writing is amazing, hilarious. You know what? Ray was over here. Ray, my brother-in-law, who does a lot of the graphics on the show. And well, he was working on stuff, and he put on One Punch Man just the whole season while he was working. So I by extension, because I was working downstairs too, I saw One Punch Man. I liked it. I gotta admit, I'm watching it. I couldn't figure out why it's so popular, but I thought it was interesting. A guy basically, he is depressed. He's got no enthusiasm for even living because nothing is a challenge to him, right? He is literally One Punch Man. That any fight, any monster, any villain, one punch, it's over. And so that's a really interesting concept. So maybe I need to actually sit down and concentratedly watching it because I was trying to work while it was on. So maybe I need to give it another shot at some point because Ray loves it. And I know a lot of people love it like you do, Justin. So I might have to check it out again, maybe give it a second shot, and I'll only give it my actual attention this time around. All right. Jacoby Bergeron writes, I have a friend who is an MCU virgin and wants to get into them. Do I recommend to him to watch them in chronological story order or release order? Always. This is true whether it's Star Wars, whether it's MCU, whatever, always release order. That is always the way to have people watch something, is always the release order. Because that is the way we consumed and understood it. So that is the same experience they should have. It's the way in which the studios intend them to experience it. So start them off with, you could probably skip the Incredible Hulk movie, even though I'm in it. But I just go with Iron Man 1. Just start right off with Iron Man 1 and go from there. But I would always recommend release order. That's my interpretation. I'm very jealous of your friend. They get to watch all the MCU movies for the first time. All right, David Phelps writes, do you think Palpatine will have a Thanos in Endgame or Thanos in Infinity War screen presence in Rise of Skywalker? Well, we've talked about that a lot, David. I hope more of a Thanos in Infinity War. A stronger, bigger, more central presence. They've been advertising it as if he's a big presence in the film. My fear is that it's all a bait and switch and we're going to get like 5 minutes of Palpatine in it, which would be very, very upsetting and very disappointing if they do. Because they've been promising, like, I wouldn't care if you haven't been promising him with all of your marketing. He's narrating the trailers. He's the big face on the poster. You have him on the stage at D23 as the only guy on stage after the first trailer ends. Like, you've been promising us Palpatine. So if you shortchange us on Palpatine, I'm going to find that to be very deceptive and very disappointing. So hopefully it's more like an Infinity War thing. We will wait and see 1 week. 1 week, David, until we find out for sure. Thanks for the question, man. All right, Zachary Bartran writes, for the Rise of Skywalker feature, it's coming with Chapter 7. Oh, I see. Yeah, for the little tease. For the Rise of Skywalker feature that's coming with Chapter 7 of Mandalorian, would you rather it be a full scene or more of a BTS reel like The Force Awakens and Last Jedi had? I'm leaning towards wanting a behind-the-scenes reel, maybe finally show the Emperor or Luke. Ooh, well, you know what? That's a great question, Zachary. So what Zachary's referring to is, remember that The Mandalorian episode 7, not this week's episode, but next week's episode, which airs on Wednesday next week, guys. Don't forget. So it'll be on this Friday, but next week, the episode will be on a Wednesday. They're already saying that attached to episode 7 of The Mandalorian, they're going to have a big sneak peek at The Rise of Skywalker, which officially opens in theaters the very next day. I think you're right. I think the best way to go is a behind-the-scenes reel, But remember, I do not think they should show Emperor of the Luke, because I have bought into one of your guys' theories that probably the physical manifestation of Luke or the Emperor would give a major spoiler away about one of the two characters. And because of that, they probably are not going to show us Luke and not going to show us. Now, we had a photo op of Luke ages ago, and I think from Vanity Fair, released a picture, but that was out of context and we have no idea what that was. So I'm going to guess they're not going to show us either of those two guys, and that's fine at this point, if it's because they're trying to hide a major spoiler from us. But yeah, you could show a scene and that would be fine. But I like your idea better, Zachary, about doing a BTS, like a 5-minute BTS sort of thing. I think that would be the more enticing thing. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I like where your head's at. I'm in alignment with you on that, Zachary. I think I'm in alignment with you. All right. Next up, Edward Ide writes, greetings from Buffalo. I like Buffalo. I spent a lot of time in Buffalo. Why is it that Ollie is going to die in Crisis, but not Brainiac? Life is unfair. Also, how can Earth 38 Superman have a child when he has been neutered since... I see what you did there. When he has been neutered since his first appearance on Supergirl. Ba-dum-bum. Go Bills. And by the way, they're no longer my team, but does my heart good to see the Bills doing so well right now. I mean, this kid Allen's for real. They played real good against the Patriots, and it does my heart good to see the Bills doing well, by the way. I like the joke. This Superman's been neutered since. That's good. That's funny. I like that. It's true. And again, I'm going to resist the urge to go full-blown ranting on the whole way CW has handled the Superman character in this universe, and do that another time. All right. Harry Mudd writes, I have the flu today for the first time in 30 years. It sucks, dude. I hope you feel better soon. Also, living with Dr. Manhattan must be very confusing. I haven't seen the new episode, so I can't comment on that. Froygon Jin writes, which 2020 movie makes more money and which is the better movie, Wonder Woman or Black Widow? I mean, I have no idea which will be the better movie. I mean, I suspect Wonder Woman will be the better movie because they have the great director and Patty Jenkins. So I suspect that, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Marvel always exceeds our expectations. I actually think Wonder Woman makes the more money. I just think there's a bigger appetite for Wonder Woman right now than for Black Widow. Now, I could be wrong about that. You never know. It is, after all, a Marvel movie, so maybe. But I'm actually leaning towards Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman... Then again, if Wonder Woman sucks and Black Widow is like movie of the year, then obviously we change our prediction. But right now, this far out, I'll just give a wild guess that I may change my mind on later. For now, I'm going to guess Wonder Woman. All right. Ovidu Valenu writes, saw Free Guy and 6 Feet Under trailers. Ryan Reynolds seems to play the same character in all of his movies now. For me, it killed the mood. Gonna skip. Well, you can make the argument that Ryan Reynolds is playing the same guy quite a bit lately. And I can't deny that. You're right. He is. In many ways. But right now, that's what people are eating up. People are loving this Ryan Reynolds persona. And that's what people want in their movies. Now, I'll say this, though. While I thought that his persona that he was portraying in the Free Guy trailer felt more like the typical Ryan Reynolds we're getting today, I didn't necessarily think that for Six Underground. There was a little bit of it. I can't deny that. There was a little bit of it, but not a lot. By the way, don't mistake that, though, for that's the only thing Ryan Reynolds can do. Go watch Definitely Maybe. Hell, go watch Buried. A movie which he should have gotten an Academy Award nomination for, by the way. But right now, the movie-going audience right now is in love with this version of Ryan Reynolds. And so they're clamoring to see him. And by the way, he did the same thing in Hobbs and Shaw. But everybody loved it in Hobbs and Shaw. So we're going to have to wait and see. It might be turning you off. But because he's doing that persona right now, I think it's going to attract a lot of people to the theater. So we'll have to wait and see. All right. Harry Mudd writes, who'd produce the fattest lightning, Storm or Thor? I'm going to go Thor. Storm never had a lot of chance to do a lot, but I'm going to go with Thor on that one. All right. Ben Burnside just sends in a tip to support the channel. Thank you for that, Ben. Harry Mudd writes, You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. One of the great lines from Batman. God, so many great lines in The Dark Knight, but that's one of the standout ones. And it's one of the lines that is I would go so far as to say, like, even more than Why So Serious, I would think that line is probably the more quoted line out of any line in that movie. We hear it all the time with different movies too. Like, fans will always bring up, like, something will happen in another movie and they go, well, you either die the hero or you see yourself live long enough to become the villain, right? It's an iconic line and it's used a lot. All right, Ben Burnside, we only got a couple of minutes left here, guys, and then we're going to have to call it a day. We're already over 2.5 hours. Ben Burnside writes, hey, Rob, who's not here right now. I love your work on the show. I think you have a unique perspective and love for film industry that I appreciate. With that being said, I'm sorry that my Rams had to absolutely crush your Seahawks yesterday. San Francisco next week, and then Tom at Super Bowl. Well, again, the 49ers are not going to the Super Bowl. Or sorry, the Patriots are not going to the Super Bowl this year. I think the three best teams in the league right now are, despite the loss last night, I still think the three best teams in the league are the Seattle Seahawks, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Baltimore Ravens, with the Ravens being the number one right now. But any one of these teams can beat the other. So, but I think these three teams are the hosts of the league. So, yep, both Rob and I had to both watch our teams lose this weekend. It was one of those weekends. All right, Harry Mudd writes, today's episode of Watchmen was very good. Bodes well for an awesome series/season finale next week. Again, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. I have no idea. I always watch Watchmen on Monday during my lunch. So when I'm done this show today, I'll go down and watch Watchmen, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, so I can't comment on it yet. All right, Adrian writes, happy Monday, the John Campea Show. I've been jamming to Blue Monday by New Order all morning. I'm telling you what, that music fits so perfectly with that trailer. Boom, 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 boom. It just worked, and it made you feel the era, and it enhanced and seasoned the stuff we were seeing on screen. It was just a really good choice, Adrian. It was just a really, really good choice for them to go with that. And I may or may not have pulled up the music on YouTube myself and played it once. I may or may not have done that. So you're in good company. All right, Robert Perez writes, whenever you have issues with your internet, I panic because we all know what communication interruption means. Invasion. A communications interruption can only mean one thing. Da-da-da. Yes, Governor? Invasion. A little bit of the Phantom Menace reference there. Yeah, I was having some problems. YouTube had a connection problem with my service, Stream Elements, which I use here to bring up all your guys' questions. And YouTube has a connection problem with them. And so last minute, some really good people at Stream Elements helped me out this morning. We almost had a little bit of a technical problem today, but the good folks at Stream Elements helped me out. So thank you to the good folks at Stream Elements for getting me through that. All right, Harry Mudd writes, Harold Ramis in memoriam. It's 5 years since he passed. Has it been 5 years? Really? It's been 5 years? Man, it feels like it was a year ago or 2 years ago. But yeah, there was a lot of Harold Ramis honoring going on in that trailer. That was a good thing to see too. There was a lot of, obviously by that I meant honoring Egon, but still there was a lot of Harold Ramis honoring going on in that trailer, which was a good thing to see in it for me. All right. Anonymous writes, greetings from Buffalo. Another person from Buffalo. Rene A was also the original father, Macaulay in the movie. Yes, he was. In the original, a lot of people may not know, one of the most iconic television shows of all time, MASH, was actually a movie first. And he was Father, I never know how to pronounce that, Macaulay? Mulcahy. Anyway, the Irish priest in it, he was here, of course, didn't play it in the television show. None of the actors came over from the movie to play the characters in the television show, which is where we got Alan Alda from. But you're right, he was. That's a really good one to bring up. Good job on that. All right, Harry Mudd writes, I want more The Orville now. I don't want to wait till next fall for season 3, but I have to. The Orville for me is a hit and miss show. And it's frustratingly hit or miss because there will be some episodes that are just so bad, like just so painful to watch. And then the very next week, they'll do one of my favorite episodes of television that year. You know what I mean? They can be incredibly great. The one thing that bothers me about The Orville is it is such an embarrassing Star Trek ripoff. I mean, it's not an homage. It's just a straight ripoff. That's all it is. It's a complete ripoff. But still, some of their episodes are so good. So I keep watching it. I'm looking forward to it coming back as well, Harry. All right. And not to mention Harry Mudd. There's a little Star Trek connection there. All right. Santez Henderson writes, and just two more questions here, guys, and we got called today. Santez Henderson writes, hey, John, it's my birthday. Happy birthday, dude. I just wanted to let you know I appreciate the content you, Rob, and crew bring us. Makes my everyday special and entertaining. Well, seriously, Santez, happy birthday to you, my friend. May you have a marvelous, wonderful day and a marvelous, wonderful year ahead of you, sir. And we're just glad that as part of your birthday, you're spending here with us. So thank you for that, Santez, and happy birthday again, my friend. All right. Revan writes, hey guys, just sending some love from the UK. I love the work you guys do. Happy holidays. Oh man, it's always nice when somebody just wants to write in something positive and nice like that. So thank you, Revan, and I hope you're having a great day in the UK. And by the way, as somebody in the UK, join with, who was it that sent that in? Was it Koba that sent that in? As somebody in the UK, do let me know how they're handling this whole Crisis on Infinite Earths thing without them having Batwoman show. I'm still very curious to know how they do that, so please let me know how that works out. Ryan Lohner writes, I've seen Delgo, the second worst opening weekend in history. It's actually pretty okay, though, with a couple of really bad things. It's also Anne Bancroft's last film, really, released 3 years after her death. Yeah, because it came out, because she passed away around 2004, 2005, and this movie came out around 2008, so that timetable fits. I don't think I ever saw it. I don't think anybody ever saw it, but you did, Ryan. You are one of the few. You are one of the few that saw it. All right. Harry Mudd writes, R.I.P. Carol Spinney. We're talking about the puppeteer again, who was the puppeteer for Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch on Sesame Street. Again, another big loss. And thankfully somebody brought that up earlier as well. So yeah, good on you, Harry, for honoring that as well. Anonymous writes, first off, never knew Playmobil was even coming out. Yeah, they put no marketing into this thing, brother. Second, the movie had a $75 million budget. Yeah, this thing was all a bath. It was all a bath. Now, when you have that type of an animated movie, it's going to be expensive. There's going to be expense attached to it. So you expect that. But they just realized, you know what? No matter what we do with marketing, this movie's not even going to make back the money that we put into marketing, so let's just not market it. $600,000 they made on opening weekend. Not $6 million, $600,000. The fourth, if you count the Saw re-release, which you should, the fourth worst ever in history. There are people who've lost their... Here's the sad thing about this. At $75 million, this thing isn't just going to cost people's jobs. This is going to cost some people their livelihoods. I mean, this is going to ruin some people. There are people who put money into this movie that are going to be bankrupt now, which is really sad. But when you're talking about this could be, proportionally speaking, on a ratio basis, the biggest money-losing movie of all time. On a ratio basis, at any rate. But it's hard to watch, man. It's really hard to watch. R. Lee writes, like the first Wonder Woman trailer, but no cheetah? Yeah, no, that's fine. This is just the first trailer. I was fine with that. You show us Kristen Wiig, fine. You don't have to show us the villain in the first trailer. You're going to have to show us the villain in one of the trailers. Probably by the second one. You'd probably need to by the second one. But the first one, look, it's okay if they did put her in the first one, but I think it's totally fair and fine for a first trailer for them not to put her in there yet. We have different expectation levels for a first trailer than we do for, say, a second or a third. So I think they're okay where they're at right now. All right, guys, last question of the day. Comes to us from Supercam13. And by the way, guys, for all of you who sent in questions during the show after Supercam, do not worry. A little bit later this afternoon, I'm doing a companion video where all your questions that got sent in are getting answered today in a video. Keep your eyes open for it a little bit later this afternoon. But for now, we got to wrap things up. Supercam13 writes, hey, John, as much as I agree with you on not jobbing Superman, do you think the CW can turn it around by having Supergirl job to Superman in a rematch where Supergirl is mind controlled? Thanks, Merry Christmas, and may the Force be with you. You could, but here's the problem, Supercam. And again, I'm going to resist the urge of going full-blown rant on this. They're so invested now in the fact that Superman is nothing but a second fiddle to Supergirl. And this is Supergirl's show. And they have spent years now humiliating Superman every chance they have to show the audience. Look, everybody, don't forget, Supergirl's even better than Superman. See? Supergirl's better than Superman. Every single chance they get, they're not going to undo that. Okay? They're not going to undo that. They could, but they're not. And they even did it again in Crisis. Once again, here's an opportunity for us to show that Supergirl's better than Superman. They did it again. So if they were to do something like what you're suggesting, Supercam, could that undo that a little bit? Could, but they'll never do it. They are so balls deep in making sure that they constantly communicate to their audience to prop up their character. Supergirl is better than Superman in everything. Supergirl is better than Superman. They'll never go back on that. I wish they would. They could, but they're not going to, which only adds to the frustration. Today I am choosing not to get all worked up about it because I've gotten worked up about it enough. But I think I just don't think they ever will, man. I just don't think they ever will. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Once again, just a reminder for Terry Giordano, James Palmer, Wicked Man, Stubble McShave, and everybody else who had questions sent in that we still had outstanding. Don't worry about it. A little bit later today, later this afternoon, we're going to put up a companion video that has all your questions answered, so keep your eyes open for that. All right, guys, that'll do it for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you guys so much for being here. Don't forget the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow morning with me and Robert Meyer Burnett talking about a whole new slew of topics that are coming up in the world of movies and movie news. So make sure you join us. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button. And guys, listen, it really does help this show when you leave a comment and click the thumbs up button. It just helps the algorithm, helps more people discover the John Campea Show. So if you don't mind doing that, if you enjoy these types of conversations, whether you agreed with my personal opinion or not, give the show a thumbs up and make sure you leave a comment on your thoughts on any or all the topics that we discussed here today. Special thanks to all you guys who did send in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported the channel along the way, and you guys are the reason that we're able to be here. Don't forget to all you guys who are Patreon supporters, and on the Discord server, about 15 minutes after we're done the show here today, I will be in that Discord server so we can have our post-John Campea Show chat. Again, that's for our Patreon supporters, so we'll see you guys in there. And again, one last time, Robert Meyer Burnett and I are putting up a preview podcast of the new Weekly Hero a little bit later today, so keep your eyes open for where you can get the podcast feed and all that kind of stuff for the new podcast version of the Weekly Hero. That will do it for me for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.